pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next item are some announcements, and I'll start off with remind everyone that next Monday we will not be having a Board of Selectmen meeting. It is the 4th of July, and we are hoping the weather will be clear enough that we'll have the fireworks that evening. And if not, they will be postponed until Tuesday, July 5th. But we do expect it to be a great night of fireworks, and fundraising is going on, and I'm sure it would be greatly appreciated. Next announcement we have from the Energy Committee. I saw Megan here a minute ago, but so we'll move on to certificate of recognition. Ms. English-Baga.
This is our certificate of recognition for Ken Cousins, who was my teacher, so I get to read it. Certificate of recognition. This honor is bestowed upon Kenneth Cousins on your retirement from the town of Falmouth and for your 35 years of dedicated service as a teacher and coach. The certificate is awarded by the Falmouth Board of Selectmen this 27th day of June 2016.
There's a motion.
Second.
Motion and second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none. The ayes have it. Next, Megan Amsler from the Energy Committee.
Good evening.
Hello.
We wanted to take this opportunity to present two of our Energy Superstar Awards for 2016. And one of our candidates just stepped out, but we have John Dolan, who was nominated the award for the residential category, and he has done a great deal of energy efficiency, and as the Energy Committee likes to acknowledge, energy efficiency first, then renewable energy, and he has done a great deal of energy efficiency upgrades to his home, and topped it all off with a solar system, solar electric, on his home. So we would like to take this opportunity to present the award to him.
Thank you very much for your great work. Thank you. I haven't had electric bills for 2 months now. So
Yippee! And the second category tonight we wanted to present is to the Falmouth Housing Trust, which gets this award for the nonprofit category. And they were nominated for the St. Mark's Project and also for Oddfellows Hall. And they are doing a tremendous amount of work and really trying to make affordable housing affordable on all levels, including on the energy side. And so the Energy Committee really would like to acknowledge their efforts on that. Thank you very much.
Any other announcements from the board? Next is public comment. If there's anyone who'd like to speak on something that's not on our agenda, please raise your hand. Keep your comments to 2 minutes, please, or less. Mr. Finnery?
Mark Finneran, Precinct 6. A few times in the recent past, I've needed to look at the town reports for various pieces of information. And if you go online, you will find that the last town report posted is 2014. As we all know, the fiscal 2016 ends this Friday. So I was wondering if maybe the selectmen could prod us into getting these reports online at a little more timely basis, because it's necessary for someone to come down and schlep the town hall and almost beg to look at someone's copy to get the information that you need, and I think it should be a little more open. And while I'm here, also, the selectmen's minutes are the same thing. They're kind of sporadic the way they're posted. Maybe we could make those a little more available to the general public on the website as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Craig Martin, Precinct 9. My topic today is BB Woods. A couple articles in the last few weeks of the paper, as well as an editorial. on new signs put up on there, pretty stern leash law signs for the dogs. And I want to remind the board that 8 to 10 years ago, we went through a 1 or 2 year process with an appointed committee, as well as all civic input. And we thought we came to a reasonable status up there. It's been, as far as I can see, it's been working for the last 8 to 10 years. They had signs essentially that stern enforcement around the music conservatory. Yeah, understood. But it was going to be as it's been used for generations, and it was acknowledged that that was a fair way to go. Essentially, letting dogs socialize with each other, which I've been doing for 40 years there, and I've yet to see one negative occurrence in there. I've never seen one reported. What bothers me here is that these signs, these sterner signs, come up due to complaints. Now, we heard this 8 to 10 years ago when that was brought up. Dog issues were brought up in BB Woods 8 to 10 years ago, that due to complaints, and yet they couldn't then, and yet today they can't show the complaints. And I think if we're going to be making decisions, changing a certain culture, I'll say in town, or any decision, that we better be able to show the complaints. I've made requests over the years, and there are none. I'll remind this board that we've had chronic complainers, in particular one about 8 years ago that was calling up the board in town hall every day, all year, until finally the town took him to court, and he had charges filed against him. He violated, and then he went to prison for 6 months. He was a constant complainer. Are these the complaints we're getting? I'd like to be able to see what the complaints are. I don't think they're dog bites. I don't think there are any aggressiveness. Maybe it's someone's calling to say, I saw a dog loose. Well, yeah, that's the way we're practicing it. And other towns, I go to dog parks in Milton and Newton, others have it as well. We're not asking for a no leash law in there. The leash law is good to have in case there is a misbehaving dog. We want to call the animal control officer to straighten it out as well. So I have my input is that the leash law was never there for incredible strict enforcement. It was there that indeed if there was a misbehaving animal, they had the law behind them to go arrest the dog and cart him away. And so I'd like to see the BB Woods used. It's been used for generations. And again, if we hear things about the complaints, can we ask that these departments that are making the decisions start keeping record of complaints?
Absolutely. Okay, thank you.
I thank you for your time.
Okay, Mr. Dufresne?
Adrian Dufresne, representative of Precinct 2. I'd like to congratulate our new select person. The reason I'm here tonight, it was not the real reason I came. I came for another reason, but since you asked for a comment period. 3 years ago, I came before this board and kind of lodged a complaint of the fire hydrants of the town of Falmouth and the cupola on the Chamber of Commerce building. And for the last 3 years, I have seen absolutely nothing that has changed the aesthetics of that portion of the Department of Public Works, or actually one of our, I'll call it a jewel of Main Street. I understand there was an RFP that was put out and it was screwed up by somebody, I don't know who, and it's been delayed. So if it's going to be delayed, you know, as a longtime representative of Precinct 2, could somebody inform me, do you people still represent the Department of Public Works under the charter? Under the charter. And he takes care of day-to-day activities, but you people set the policies. And I think if you drive around Falmouth, and I'll be glad to take you around in my car, we have a disgraceful situation on the fire hydrants of the town of Falmouth. And I take pride in the aesthetics of the town of Falmouth. And I usually don't look up. I usually look down for nickels that somebody might have dropped. But every time I go by the chamber building, I say, for Christ's sakes, when are they going to give it a coat of paint? It was reconstructed by Arthur Vidal Sr. He's been dead, I can't remember how many years. And it hasn't had a paint job ever since. So again, I'm asking you as a board to find out when and why, and maybe put somebody together. How about adopt a hydrant policy? I mean, I know people that have $1 million homes and a hydrant in front of the house that looks like crap. You know, This is not right,
Okay,
okay?
thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for listening. I'll be back, hopefully not in the middle of 3 years.
Mr. Vieira?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Dave Vieira, Precinct 9. I appear before you this evening to share some personal thoughts relative to the issues that the board may address this evening or at a continued hearing relative to the Cape Verdean Club in Falmouth. I understand there were issues in the vicinity of the Cape Verdean Club on the evening of April 10th, 2016 this year, and the Falmouth police were called to respond to a shooting, which to the best of my knowledge was not on the actual grounds of the Cape Verdean Club, but rather down the hill on an adjacent dirt road. It is my hope that if there is a direct connection between the license violation of the club and the specific shooting incident, that it be clearly established and promulgated. But no such direct connection has been publicly put forth. It's also my understanding that this board adopted an alcoholic beverages license violation policy on February 22nd, 2016. Your policy states that the various procedures the board will use when reviewing alleged violations. It also clearly states that only violations of an establishment within the 4 years preceding the violation under review shall count towards sanctions. Yet there are many references in the public and in the media and at your meetings to an incident in 2010 at the club. The policy states that a second offense, should this have been a second offense, the sanction shall be a maximum of 12 days suspension of a license. Yet the letters which Mr. Suso sent on behalf of the board to the club appear to be de facto suspensions of activities utilizing the alcohol license at the club. So tonight I'd like to appeal to your sense of leadership and your sense of community in working to resolve the issues that arose on April the 10th. As the Cape Verdean Club prepares to celebrate their 75th anniversary, I urge the town to work cooperatively with the club to establish clear guidelines and procedures to prevent any threats to public health and public safety, and to preserve the dignity and the contributions of the Cape Verdean Club and the Cape Verdean people to T-Ticket and to the town of Falmouth. Chief Dunn actually began this gesture by meeting with members of the club and asking them to send some updated procedures in writing to him prior to your last hearing. However, there wasn't a chance for the club and the chief to sit down again to review those proposed procedures and to work out acceptable compromises on both sides from the club and the town. I urge the selectmen to revisit the draft that the Cape Verdean Club sent to Chief Dunn and to allow them to sit together and work out the details going forward. I further hope that all members of the Board of Selectmen and members of our community will join together with the Cape Verdean Club this fall as they celebrate their 75th anniversary. But more importantly, when we get together to celebrate one of many ethnic contributions, many ethnic groups in this town that have contributed so much to the town of Falmouth.
Thank you. Next item is to affirm the appointment of the Communications Administrator. I'm sorry, we have our minutes to approve. First are the May 16th public session. These are back from May 16th. So,
Yeah,
Mr. Patterson?
Mr. Chair, on page 5, under 3, I think we should get rid of the initials DJ and put in Doug Jones, just so that anybody in the future reading this will know what we're referring to. And similarly, on page 8, under the paragraph listed as 8, Julian Suso instead of JS. I think those are correct.
Move to approve with those two changes.
Second.
Motion is second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And one abstention from Ms. English-Braga. Next to the executive session from June 6th.
Mr. Chair, so I believe that the times that are listed, we have 7:35, 7:38, and 7, they should all be 6:35, 6:38, and 6:45.
Ms. Harper took these, but I did talk to Jennifer about that already. and We're
Okay.
going to make that as a typographical error.
Sounds good. I move approval,
Second?
not to release, excuse me, not to release.
We have a motion and a second to approve and not release. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, none. The ayes have it. Mr. Suso, next we have the appointment of the Communications Administrator.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. This evening, I'm asking for the board's consideration to affirm my appointment of Mr. David Diogo to the newly created position of Communications Administrator. In this position, Mr. Diogo will oversee the day-to-day operations of the Consolidated Communications Center. Mr. Diogo is the best qualified candidate from among several who applied for this position and who participated in a formal assessment center process. Police Chief Dunn, Fire Chief Mike Small, and I all recommend the appointment of David Diogo to this new public safety position. Mr. Diogo resides in Fall River. Given that he lives in reasonable commuting proximity to Falmouth, I am recommending that the board waive the residency requirement for this department head. Mr. Diogo is in attendance here with us tonight and is prepared to make a few comments to the board if that would be in order.
I'd love to meet him.
That'd be great.
David, if you would.
Welcome to Falmouth.
Thank you very much. I'd like to thank the members of the board, Mr. Suso, the police and fire chief, and everybody else who is allowing me this opportunity to take on this new position, and I hope to serve the town proud as well as the townspeople.
Ready for a motion? Both to approve and to affirm the appointment and to waive the residency requirement?
So moved.
Second.
We have motion second. Any further discussion? Well, the residency requirement will be waived. We certainly hope that you're going to find how much you'd love to live in Falmouth and consider that the commute is long enough to living in Falmouth could certainly have its merits. And
I'm sure I will.
Great.
I'm sure I will. Thank you very much.
We have motion and second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. The ayes have it.
Thank you, members of the board.
Mr. Suso, the building
Mr.
commissioner?
Diogo. Yes, I'm also very pleased to request a second affirmation of a second appointment respectfully to the board. In this case, I request the board's consideration to affirm my appointment of Mr. Rod Palmer to the position of building commissioner. Mr. Palmer was the strongest candidate participating in the formal assessment center process among a large number of qualified candidates for that important position. He brings considerable background and experience to this position, having served as a municipal building commissioner since 2000 in 2 different municipalities in the Commonwealth. He's anticipated to assume his duties on July 18th. Mr. Palmer resides in Carver, and I am recommending that the board waive the residency requirement in this case as well due to the relatively close proximity to the town of Falmouth. And Mr. Palmer is with us here this evening as well, and welcome him making a few comments to the board, if he may.
Mr. Palmer?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. I thank the town of Falmouth for selecting me as your new building commissioner. I'm looking forward to the opportunity and the challenges. Thank you very much. I would also like to say, if I may, thank you to your town manager, Julian, personnel director, Denise. They've made this entire process seamless for myself and my family. I'd also like to say that it's been a the entire process has been nothing less than professional, polite, and courteous, and for that I say thank you, Julian. And Denise, I don't see her here, but thank you, Denise.
We have the same motion as a possibility.
So moved.
Second.
Move to appoint and to waive the residency requirement, and I'll add, love to have you move to Falmouth soon. It's a great place to raise kids. All right, motion and second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thanks, sir.
Opposed?
Welcome.
None?
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome.
It's good news on both those fronts to be able to move forward with those two
Indeed.
departments.
2 excellent individuals. Happy to have them joining us.
Next, under summary of actions, we have some licenses. The first is the approval application for 3 special one-day liquor licenses for the New Silver Beach Association for Saturday, July 16th, July 30th, and August 13th.
I move approval.
Second.
We have motion and second to approve. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Next is the request for a one-day entertainment license for Molly's Tea Room at 227 Main Street in Falmouth
Mr.
for
Chairman,
Saturday, July 2nd.
I have to abstain from this. I have a conflict for this.
Okay. Any questions from the board? Do we have anyone from the applicant or anyone of the abutters concerned about this? Okay.
This is
Motion to approve?
second.
Motion and second to approve. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. The ayes have it. And 1 abstention from Ms. English Rocker. Next is approval request for a change of manager of an all-alcohol club license for the Cape Verdean Club of Falmouth, 126 Sandwich Road, for the applicant. Yes, sir.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Mr. Suso. My name is Glenn Albrecht. I'm an attorney, and I'm here representing the Cape Verdean Club. I sent a letter into the town last week talking about the fact that I had a doctor's appointment, which I did have this morning. He carved me up pretty good, but I thought it was important to be here. I understood that the hearing that was to be held on a number of issues was going to be continued at my request.
Yep.
But I also understood that there was going to be some discussion with respect to the request for a change of manager, and I wanted to be here for that too. Just to bring the board up to date, by recent vote of the board, a new application for manager was submitted just today. I don't know whether copies have yet even gotten to you. So it may not be appropriate to take this very far at this point, because I don't think that there's been any review or any query check or anything else. But the applicant is Melissa Lovell. She has previously worked at the front end, as front-end manager of the Family Foods, which sells alcoholic beverages, and was involved in sales and aware of sales and aware of laws relating to sales of alcoholic beverages.
So as I understand, the applicant is not, for the new manager, is not Roy Rose Jr.?
That's correct.
Well, at that point, then, we should just continue that application so we can get the documentation on the new manager. We really cannot hold that hearing without that information in front of us.
Understood. Understood. Just providing whatever information you wanted to hear, that's all.
I think it's best once we have that information in writing, so we can also submit it to the department, the police department, for the query checks and all the information. At this point, for your benefit, I also would say that we're certainly happy to continue the hearing for both the change of manager and the other hearing in deference to the letter that you sent the board.
I appreciate that. I'd just like to raise one issue for clarification, if I could.
Sure.
At a recent meeting, the last hearing, I think, a letter was sent to the Cape Verdean Club June 13th based on a motion to suspend the consumption of alcoholic beverages until the hearing tonight, and also that events at the Cape Verdean Club are to be restricted to members only. The reason for the clarification is that I understand that since it's a club for members and guests, and that they own the club and have use of their own property, that if they wanted to have an event, a non-alcoholic event, with members and guests, that they could do that. And one of the reasons I wanted to clarify that is that they're planning to have a reception after a funeral this Thursday, the death of a member's daughter. And I wanted to make sure that the board was sanguine with the idea that they could have events there involving members and guests.
Okay, I think that certainly was, when my understanding of the motion intent was members and their guests being very specifically defined as the guests, as opposed to more open than it had been in the past.
Okay.
So I'm not sure we need, why don't we have another motion to clarify that we mean members and the guests of those members? Yep.
Mr. Chair, and I think we also have to ask the question, are we going to continue the suspension, which was supposed to end with the hearing today? So are we certain that we're going to be having that hearing on, is it July 11th? Is that the?
Most likely it'll be actually July 25th, because the police chief cannot be here on July 11th.
So July 25th, so.
I did want to raise the issue that was also raised by Representative Vieira about the fact that there has been a de facto suspension now that has gone on for a period longer than the regulations would call for. And I didn't know whether or not you wanted to take that into consideration, since the next hearing now is not going to be until the end of July.
I mean, I was hoping we were just going to continue this on your request, as opposed to not actually have the discussion. Since Mr. Vieira raised it, the policy he was talking about had to do with specifically written for underage drinking violations. And that was where we drafted that policy. It does not unfortunately say that very clearly on the policy, but that was the intent of that policy. That's when we drafted it. It was not a policy that we had written for all violations. It was one specifically drafted after last year's concerns with underage drinking violations. And so to apply to this one was not really the appropriate case. Technically, this public hearing does not start till 7:30, and even in consideration of that. And the reason I was just suggesting that we just continue it and actually not have the hearing, but how would the board like to proceed? I'm going to declare it's close enough to 7:30, and we have the people here to go ahead and start the hearing with the suggestion that we're going to continue it. Mr. Patterson?
Oh, I'm sorry.
I don't want to continue. I met this morning with Chief Dunn, and he and I both understood that the hearing was going to be continued. I'm not looking to have a full-blown hearing at this point because he informed me that some of his officers weren't going to be here. I just wanted to raise this one issue that was caused by the letter that was sent out in June, only because the continuance of the hearing now to even a later date is causing continued suspension. If that single issue might be considered by the board, that's fine. If you don't want to consider that, I don't want to reopen the hearing now and against the word that I gave to Chief Dunn.
So
I think it's appropriate for us to continue the hearing until the time and date specific on July 25th to make sure that everyone involved can be here for that. And we'll put the time at 7:30 is what I would be proposing. Following that, we can then have discussion about whether we are going to include the temporary suspension as part of that. But let's first deal with whether we're going to continue the hearing till then.
what's the date?
July 25th.
Monday, July 25th.
Monday, July
Okay.
25th at 7:30.
So I'll make a motion that the hearing be continued to July 25th at 7:30.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
You have to
Opposed?
abstain.
None. And an abstention from Ms. English Braga. So the issue now is when we had continued the hearing before, we had a suspension at that point until that hearing was finalized. Is the opinion of the board to maintain that until the hearing is finalized?
I would like to open it up. I think our concerns were always the level of management of the events, so that people were safe and the events could be held in a way that wouldn't lead to things like people carrying guns. And also that the events not be open to the public in general, but restricted, as the license says, to members and their guests. And I think the assurances from their attorney are that this is going to be members and their guests, and I'm comfortable with that until.
The third issue is they don't have a manager on record, and they cannot operate without a manager on record.
Well, that's a good point.
Because we have not appointed a new one, and the previous one has asked to be removed the past 3 years. So the compromise could be that maybe on July 11th, the documentation can be put in for this other woman who wants to be the manager, at which point we might be able to approve the change of manager and at least be able to have that hurdle out of their way, because it would be inappropriate for them or for us to say that they can run it without a manager. And at least it could make it so that it's not continued all the way to the 25th, that we could consider at that point on the 11th, once they have a manager in place.
So defer it to the 11th.
I don't think we have any choice because we don't have a manager on record that we've approved.
That's a good point.
I agree.
Okay. Do I understand, though, that what will come up on the 11th is simply the issue of whether the suspension will be removed and not all of the other issues? The other issues are continued till the 25th.
The two issues I'm suggesting come up was, one is approval of a new manager.
Right.
And if a new manager is approved, then the board will discuss, should we lift the temporary suspension until the hearing is concluded.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. So there's no other action we actually need to take tonight. Mr. Patterson?
Okay, that's what I wanted to ask, is whether we need to continue this suspension, which was due to end tonight.
It is.
I thought
Until
actually,
they get an approved manager.
what we had worded is the suspension was continued until the hearing was completed. And right now, that's where it still stands.
Okay.
On Monday, the 11th, we could vote to change that because they now have a new manager, but I just don't, I think it muddies the waters to change that vote.
Sounds good.
Okay,
Thank you very much.
thank you. We do have another hearing scheduled for 8 o'clock, so we're going to get some of our administrative orders business out of the way. The first order is a conservation restriction for the Kelly Woodland property. Request has been to hold that until July 11th. The other items I'll read, and if you have any that you want to hold, please let me know, otherwise we'll vote on them as an item collectively. To authorize the town manager and the Conservation Commission to prepare and submit applications for land grant programs for conservation restrictions on approximately 70 acres owned by D'Addario Enterprises LLC, Shallow Pond Woodlands. To vote to decline the first reverse refusal on the 19 Esker Place. Vote to accept the donation from Marvin and Avis Grossline in the amount of $1,000 to the Veterans Donation Account for Veterans Needs. Item to approve the Juniper Point Road easement for drainage system. Authorize an agreement with the West Falmouth Library for use of a portion of parking lot for construction equipment. Vote to accept the donation from the Woods Hole Foundation to the Falmouth Bikeways Committee in the amount of $525. And approve the special act for John Busby retirement benefits, which will be giving benefits to his spouse upon his passing. And approve the Eversource petition to install 20 feet of 4-inch underground conduit and 2 handholds on Old Dock Road to service house number 84.
Mr. Chair, on the John Busby retirement benefits, I thought that that was left open as an option, that he could choose.
Do you want to hold it?
Then we better hold it, yeah,
Okay.
because I think the way it's worded. Okay.
So B, C, D, E, F, G, and I.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. And then the special act for Mr. Busby. Let me make sure that I have the wording here.
Yeah, my reading of the information was that it was left as an option for him to choose.
Yes.
As to whether he wanted to, because you'll get more of a, more of a.
And he will, giving him 30 days after the passing of the act for him to choose.
But I like the wording because it leaves the option open to his discretion.
Yep.
So I would move approval of the proposed retirement benefits for John Busby.
Second.
Motion and second. Further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. The ayes have it. And next is a discussion of the potential special election. Mr. Palmer has been doing a significant amount of work to find out what our options are. And the timetable, if we do want to have a special election to replace the Board of Selectmen, and the Mass law gives us the option, our Falmouth Charter does not. It says that we shall have an election. The timing of it, if we chose to have it on September 8th, the same as our primary day, would save us about half the cost, with the potential of additional savings if we can convince the state to let us print one ballot that includes the selectmen's race on it also. We don't need to actually have that motion tonight to ask for the special permission from the state, but we do need a motion if we want to have it on September 8th to be able to give the timetable for it to be announced, appropriate time for nomination papers to begin in, the clerk to then verify the signatures on those, and then posting it for each polling station.
Wouldn't we have similar savings in terms of cost of the process if we waited to the next election time?
Yes.
So that would be equal?
Yep.
Whether we do it in, I guess it would be September or November?
I don't believe we actually have the option of doing it during the presidential election, though. I don't think we can. I think that there are restrictions on what can go on the presidential election.
On that ballot, you
On
mean?
that
So
ballot.
we'd have to have a separate ballot?
Right.
Do we have to hold this till Frank
Mr.
gets
Chairman,
back?
just to clarify, Michael Palmer and also Frank Duffy are both planning to be here this evening. They weren't planning to be here this early. If you'd like them to enter into that discussion with you and other members of the board prior to locking down a final decision on this, they would be planning to be here within the coming hour, but they were anticipating approximately the 8:30 timeframe.
So
So I just wanted to pass that along.
why don't we table it until they are here?
Yes, I move to table it.
Second. Megan.
Motion and second to table. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, the next item is to discuss our beach parking policy. We have a draft policy put in front of us. The basic premise is twofold. One is that active duty military personnel stationed in Falmouth or the Joint Base Cape Cod would be eligible to purchase a resident permit for $30, just as if they were residents of Falmouth, and then they could put that on their car as anybody else can. The second piece would be if any nonprofit, charitable, or educational organizations wanted to bring their participants to the beaches, they would apply with Mr. Hoffer, who would keep lists of those groups of the cars that were coming, inform the parking attendant that a certain number of cars were coming. They would be allowed to come that day, but there would be no handing over of a pass or something they would allow them to come back at some other time. This would give Mr. Hoffer a lot more control as to when they come. It's also made clear that if there's no parking available, they can drop the kids off and then come back and get the kids. If there's parking available, they would be allowed to park in that lot during the time that they're there at the beach.
I like the fact that it segregates the availability of this benefit only to charitable or educational organizations.
I should disclose that I am involved in an educational organization that has taken advantage of being able to go to the beaches for field trips. I do not receive any monetary benefit from that, so I've been advised I do not need to recuse myself, but I just want to disclose that it is something certainly that my school has taken advantage of in the past. Mr. Patterson?
I certainly found it to be a well-thought-out policy, and I'm very supportive of this. I think it's well-written, well-thought-out, well-structured, and I think it benefits the right kind of people that we want to be generous to.
And I would just add that I think it addresses some of the concern that folks had, that there would maybe be this sort of ambiguous category and a sticker would be given to someone that, I think people had maybe a sense that there would be a permit or a sticker given that might be used throughout the season, and this makes it very clear that you really just, you're on a list, you show up for that day, you show that you're that organization, you enjoy the beach that day, and then you leave. So I think it addresses some of the concerns that people had. So I think it's well done.
I'm going to make a motion that we approve the beach parking policy.
I'll second.
Motion and second. I also like the fact that it actually creates no new permits or stickers
Yes.
that anyone has to deal with. It's using what we currently have. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, none. The ayes have it.
Thank you.
We're going to move down to the annual committee reappointments, and these are the ones that are not going to be interviewed tonight. This is item 4 on our agenda. These are the following incumbents who have expressed being appointed to the following committees. To the Affirmative Action Committee, Lionel Hall, term ending June 30th, 2019. Affordable Housing Committee, Ann Curley and Edward Curley, term ending June 30th, 2019. The Agricultural Commission, Deborah Lee Rogers, term ending June 30th, 2019. Beach Committee, Margaret Mischel and Dan Schurer, term ending June 30th, 2019. Bikeways Committee, Edward Gross, M.D., term ending June 30th, 2019. Cable Advisory Committee, Peter Cook, term ending June 30th, 2019. Coastal Pond Management Committee, John Ross, term ending June 30th, 2019. Commission on Disabilities, Nancy Serburn and Kathleen Hayes, terms ending June 30th, 2019. Council on Aging, James Vieira and Patricia Mello, term ending June 30th, 2019. Cultural Council, Olive Ann Hobby, term ending June 30th, 2019. EDIC, Brooks Bartlett Sr., term ending June 30th, 2019. Golf Advisory Committee, Margaret Elcom, term ending June 30th, 2019. Human Services Committee, Elaine Sinney, Barbara A. Sullivan, Ann Connolly, terms ending June 30th, 2019. Solid Waste Advisory Committee, Virginia Gregg and Linda Davis, term ending June 30th, 2019. South Beach Advisory Committee, Donald Clark, terminating June 30th, 2019. Veterans Council Committee, the at-large Robert Foos, June 30th, 2019, and Randy Collette, June 30th, 2019. I'm going to have you read them.
Where are you?
Water Quality Management Committee.
Okay, the Water Quality Management Committee, John Waterbury terminating June 30, 2019. Randy Collette terminating June 30, 2019. Oops, I think I misread that line. That was John Waterbury and Matt Patrick terminating June 30, 2019, rather. Waterways Committee, Arthur Hawks, June 30th, 2019 termination. Weiers, Certified Cape Cod Aggregates. These are all terminating June 30, 2017. David V. Peterson, Jr., Paul C. LaRusso, Robert Umbrello, Samuel A. LaRusso, Jr., Linda DeVito, Ted Freeman. Weiers, Certified Wastewater Treatment Facility. These are all terminating June 30, 2017. Charles Perez, Patricia Neiman, Stephen Parsons, Stephen Devonis, Andreo Fernandez, and Wayne Resendez. Waymasters Highway Division, Transfer Station, terminating June 30, 2017. Ernie Santos, Carlos Rubello, William Baltic, and Greg Jaget.
And these were all positions that we did not have other applicants for. So, motion to
approve the lot?
Second.
Motion second, further discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none.
Thank you for
We also
stepping
have
up.
2 annual appointments of the
Again.
parking clerk is Patricia O'Connell, and this is just a 1-year term, June 30th, 2017. And the assistant parking clerk, Tracy Cecil, terminating June 30th, 2017.
I move approval.
Second?
Motion second, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none. Let's see, do we have Mr. Rafferty here yet? Jumping way ahead. All right, we'll move on to we have a sign variance request from the Falmouth Clipper Quarterback Club. Chance I can get my papers all the way back in order. These are for 4 different locations at the Gus Canty Center, the McCoy Highway, Cumberland Farms, at Route 158, 28A at Dean's Deli Corner, and East Falmouth Highway at Smitty's Ice Cream. And the purpose is to advertise and create more awareness about the Falmouth High School football program and make the public aware when there's a home football game.
I'd move to approve.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? No. The ayes have it. Next item we're going to move on to is our set the date for our 2016-17 strategic planning retreat.
Mr. Chairman, just to interject, as a board will recall, you have an open Monday on Monday, July 18th, and the suggestion for your consideration is that you hold your strategic planning retreat that evening from approximately 6 p.m. to approximately 9 p.m. At Highfield.
And Mr. Nutting can make it then?
He can, yes.
Oh, good.
Okay. Does that seem like a good date for the 4 of us?
Works for me.
Okay.
Excellent.
I don't think
Is
we
that
actually have to have a vote on that, but we've agreed
The
to it.
consensus?
Yep.
Right.
Very good, thank
Very
you.
good. Thank you.
We now look at our liaison assignments. Unless you, I think we have the time for that.
Well, I
There's any
can-
reason to wait until the 18th to do that.
Yeah. I can volunteer to stay with the same ones I've had. I would actually like to do that,
Okay.
just for the continuity that I can continue to work with these various groups. So,
They are used to having you there.
yeah, we have, I think so far, a respectful relationship, so I don't know that I've burned any bridges.
Any chance you could pick up for another 1 or 2 until we get to the September election?
Certainly
That's when we have it?
willing to consider that based on the conflicts that exist. I might mention, this is an old list, going back to the And I think you actually had, you and I had agreed to change, where you had picked up the Waterways Committee and I had picked up the Affordable Housing Committee.
Yes,
so-
that's what I remembered also.
Which is fine with me, but,
Okay.
oh my goodness.
Well, maybe we'll start with what Megan would like to do.
Yeah, let's do that.
I'm happy to do whatever makes sense for the, I'm gonna share this, because I think I have an old one, even older one. The one board that, and I had spoken with Sue about this, the one committee I would like to be the liaison to the Affirmative Action Committee, if Sue is open to that. Other than that, I will, particularly given that we have one less person right now and positions to fill, I'm happy to fill in wherever. I understand that Sam wants to keep the ones that he's doing now. I don't know how wedded anyone else is to their particular committees, but
How do you feel about the Affirmative Action?
I'm gonna, it's gonna have to be something big that I get in return for this.
she said she was gonna hold it over my head for a long
Because
time.
it's a great committee. They work a lot with the school system. It's active, moving,
Yes.
and I think it's a great way to switch up. I certainly really appreciate that. I've been going to Cable Advisory, and I know, so I think that I should formally just put that in my
Okay.
column.
I was wondering if we could put the other waterways, the water ones with you, because I know you've also been doing that regionally.
I think I'd actually like to mix it up, because a lot of it depends on,
Dates.
sure, happy to do that. Just for consistency, that makes sense.
The Cape Cod Water Protection and the Coastal Ponds Committee is the one that, the two I was thinking. you might-
Coastal ponds, and then,
The Cape Cod Water Protection Collaborative.
okay. What about waterways, is that,
Well, I mean, if you
You're
want
gonna-
that one also, happy to stay with that one, but if I think there is an overlap there that,
right, I'm already doing the water protection. I was appointed,
right.
okay, so,
So why don't you do the waterways also, if that's okay?
sure. So that's 1, 2,
Okay.
3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, okay.
That's enough.
Yep,
And so then Megan has the affirmative action.
Oh, I see.
Sure, and I'm just looking, if I go down through, sorry, Sam. I'm happy to do, I know Rebecca was on Council on Aging. I don't
Okay,
mind picking that up, that's
Great.
fine. We're already doing some work with,
right.
some work on the senior center, so that makes sense.
Does the Design Review Committee
Still a
meet at all?
meet?
no.
I don't think so, so this
Right.
is really just academic.
Beaches,
Beaches is fine, that was one of my departments for Finance Committee, so I'm
Okay.
happy to do beaches.
Oh,
Great.
excellent.
Yep, that's fine.
And then the Historic District and Historical is just one.
Yes?
I'd be happy to do that, that's
Okay.
great, I'd be
Sure.
excited to do that.
And I think with the affirmative action, the Human Services and the Council on Aging might make sense as another one if you're willing to throw that in there also.
Yes,
Yes. That'd be excellent.
And so that leaves the Zoning Board of Appeals, which I would like to take on. And the Solid Waste Advisory Committee, I think it's the last one.
I don't mind doing that, that's
Okay.
fine.
Great.
Does
So
that-
we'll get an amended copy to people and see if that's what.
And is
I
that
wrote
covering,
down.
does that look like it covers
I believe so.
everything? Okay.
As best I can see. All right, moving back up, we have the special event permit fee waiver for Jack's Pack, the Run Jack Run event. Any chance we have someone from that organization here? Are we prepared to discuss that one? So this is Monday, July 4th, a 1.2-mile run from Falmouth High School at Trotting Park Field. This has gone on for a few years. You can see that we have their event accounting in front of us.
I'd like to move to approve the event.
I'll second that.
I think the event has been approved.
Yeah, I think it has something,
This
they're
is just
asking
asking for the
fee waiver.
waiving the
Oh,
fee.
for the fee waiver?
The only question I had about that request, it sounds like to me it's a school-related activity. I mean, but how do they select their scholarship awards? That was the question I had. You know, what's the method by which they decide who gets those scholarship awards? Because I'd sort of like to know that it's a fair option for any of the students at the school. If we're going to give them preference like we would any school group, what's the basis by which they distribute their and allocate their scholarship funds? I was hoping somebody might be here to answer that question.
Yeah, I'm sure they were expecting if it was going to be our agenda, it would be a good deal later, so maybe we should hold off to see if they are going to be here. All right, I'm going to suggest we take a 10-minute recess until our 8 o'clock, and then we can finish grabbing our food since we've been here since 5:30. So we'll be in a 10-minute recess. our liquor license hearing scheduled for 8 o'clock. This is the application for alternation of premises on an all alcohol common victor license. Quicks Hole. Notice is hereby given under Chapter 138 of the General Laws as amended, the Quicks Hole LLC, doing business as Quicks Hole Tavern, has applied for an alteration of premises of an all alcoholic common victual annual liquor license located at 29 Railroad Avenue, Woods Hole, Mass. A hearing will be held in Selectmen's Meeting Room, Falmouth Town Hall, on Monday, June 27, 2016, at 8 p.m. on the above application. And this was published in the Enterprise on June 17, 2016. Good evening.
Hello.
Could you
Hello.
please tell us what you'd like to do at Quicks Hole?
Sure. So my name is Beth Colt, and I'm the owner and the manager at Quicks Hole Tavern, which is located at 29 Railroad Avenue in Woods Hole. And it's a 3-story building. And I have been before the Zoning Board of Appeals to ask to use the 3rd floor, which was traditionally, it was built as an apartment, to use the 3rd floor as an additional seating space for restaurant seating. There's a few hundred square feet up there, maybe 500-600, something like that. There's a bathroom. And the Zoning Board of Appeals has approved the use of 49 additional restaurant seats up there. And I'm here to redefine the legal premise in which I'm hopefully allowed to serve alcohol to include that floor.
Any questions from the board?
I think it's a very interesting, creative premise to be going upstairs, and I just was curious a little bit more about your vision.
Sure. So in the busy times, Friday nights, Saturday nights, we do turn away some business, and it would be helpful to seat more people during those time periods. And we're going to put 2 tops and 4 and 5 tops up there. So it'll just be really additional seating during the busier times. It probably won't be open at times that we are less busy because it requires extra servers, and there's no point having extra servers just spreading everybody a little bit thinner. And we really aren't doing that much to the space. It has really beautiful windows looking out over the ferry. They were designed as an apartment space, so they're smaller than downstairs, but they're still quite nice.
So top of the hub view kind of thing.
Exactly, just like that. And so we're just excited about the opportunity, both in the regular season and in the off-season, to capture the extra business on those handful of busy nights.
And it has elevator access also to 3rd floor.
It unfortunately does not have elevator access. I did seek a variance from the Architectural Access Board in Boston, and they did give me a variance to use it as additional seating, since I'm not offering anything demonstrably different than what I offer on the other floors.
Okay.
That was my question.
Okay.
I couldn't remember if the
Yes.
elevator went up there
It
or
does
not.
not.
Okay.
So I have a building permit that just got signed off today from the building department to add handrails, exit signs. They're required to move a sprinkler a few feet to meet current building code, as the space was not originally built as restaurant space, so it had to meet that commercial code. So there were some modest changes, but nothing major.
But your wait staff will be getting their exercise up and down the stairs.
Very fit people.
Great.
I actually have one quick question.
Sure.
So the access, when you come from the downstairs, right? So
Yes.
you'll take the stairs.
Yes.
and was there an opening, or isn't there a door on like a little small balcony?
There is,
Or a
there are
sliding
doors
door?
on both the front and the back.
Okay.
To get up and down.
Okay.
And then there is a small balcony there with a sliding door.
Okay.
Yes,
And that will remain there, or is that going
that will remain there.
Okay.
It's not big enough to sit.
For anyone to go out
You
on.
can't sit out there,
Okay.
but you could stand and look at the view there.
to? Okay.
What will the capacity of the restaurant be now with the 49? Approximately?
I don't want to misquote it. Hold on. Maybe I have that. Okay, I'll just say approximately that the downstairs, the first floor, this is from memory, and I may be off a few, but I think the first floor seats about 52 people, but has standing room for something like 68, I believe. And the second floor seats 50, and this 3rd floor will seat 49. I only own 32 chairs, so I'm not sure I'll go to the 49 We'll see.
I imagine there also may be some checking out how many people you can really be serving at any
Well,
one time.
that's an issue, yeah. So the kitchen is only so big, and
Right.
you have to be able to get the food out in a reasonable amount of time, so we're gonna take that slowly and experiment with it.
Any other questions from the board? Is there anyone in the public who'd like to speak on behalf of this application?
I just have one question.
Yeah, if you would have to come to the podium and say your name, please, and tell.
Mary Ann
You have
Smith.
to actually come to the podium so that,
My goodness. My name is Mary Ann Smith, and the only question I have is, have you spoken with the fire department on the safety for the evacuation of folks?
so has there been conversation with the fire department?
Absolutely, yes, yes. It's not possible to convert to commercial use space without approval from the fire department. They've been in and checked it, and sprinkler system's been reviewed. There's a full fire alarm system as well, and as well as the issues of egress. All of those have been reviewed by the fire department.
That was my question, thank you.
Anyone else from the public?
No, I appreciate it.
All right, this being a hearing, entertain a motion to close the hearing.
So moved.
Second?
Motion and second to close the hearing. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none. We close the hearing. Would you like to render a decision on this, continue it? How would you like to handle this issue?
I think it looks like the homework has been done and that all of the appropriate contacts have been made with town and to address safety and everything else. So I would feel comfortable approving it, or at least entertaining a motion to approve that tonight.
Second?
Motion and second to approve. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none. The ayes have it. And how soon will it be open upstairs?
Very soon, very soon. Can't commit, but
Can't
thank you.
I was up in that building, I think, a few years ago, and the view is spectacular.
It's great.
Of Woods Hole and all the new ferry coming in, and so.
That's who's using it.
Thank you.
You're
Thank
probably-
you so much, I appreciate it.
You're probably going to get requests to be seated up there.
That's
So, anyway, I hope you fill it.
Do we have any individual selectmen's reports we could hear at this time?
Sure.
Ms. Moran?
So the Cape Cod Commission had a two-day, One Cape selection of seminars, and almost all of the selectmen and town managers and various water-related staff, as well as academic people, professors, state and federal department heads were all presenting the findings so far of all the work that has been done regionally in terms of cleaning up our estuaries and having clean water. I know that Selectman Patterson also attended, as well as Selectman Braga, and it was just tremendously successful. And I just want to note in particular, Sia Karplus, who's been the town's consultant before anyone else got any of the other towns who are now getting the benefit of her services. She won, and I forget the exact name of the award, but it really was one of the citizens and experts who has given the most to the cause of clean water on Cape Cod. So I really wanted to commend her, and also to commend the commission and everyone else on the Cape who are involved in this endeavor, and particularly all the residents of Falmouth, because in listening to all of the town's reports and research and projects that are being done, Falmouth continues to be way out in front, and just, very proud of our town for all the work on that. And then secondly, I just want to say that I attended the Disabilities Commission. There's been a shakeup in officers, and Jane is stepping back a little to train a new chair, and the committee's very active and right on top of all the rights for in our town for persons with disabilities. So proud of that as well.
Great. Anyone else?
Yeah, I might, yes. Being on the Community Preservation Committee as a liaison, actually had the opportunity to tour the Lawrence Academy, building, and see this, the re-tuck pointing and rework of the masonry for the portico. There's still painting to be done, And then I know Andy Dufresne mentioned the lack of paint on the cupola. That is in the process of being contracted, so we're going to be seeing progress with that before the end of the summer, I hope, anyway. But at least it is moving along. I also had the chance to go in the Conant House, which is another one of the CPC projects that we are funding through our CPA funds, and see the restoration work that's being done there by the Historical Society. And it's impressive, and it's going to be a very nice museum space and place where people who enjoy historical buildings and stories, of course, it's going to have all kinds of interesting things about Falmouth and its history, and it should be a great addition to the Historical Society, and some added office spaces that they're going to put by adding an addition onto the back of the building. The last thing I was joined by my fellow selectmen, Megan and Sue, for the Swift Park Tennis Court dedication, which was another project funded through CPA funds. And it was just nice to see it being used already by children and adults as well. It's a very nice tennis facility, and if you have a chance to play there, you should take the opportunity to do that. Last thing I want to mention is that, because it's been almost 2 weeks ago, I attended a 2-day workshop on Massachusetts, put on by the Massachusetts Housing Institute. It's really the Mass Housing Partnership. And it was very informative. It's got soup to nuts about 40B developments, including projects that have been successful around the country. I was lucky to be able to attend some workshops on the financing aspects of 40B, both from a developer standpoint and from the municipality standpoint of being able to assess a project and make sure that it's not going to, fall apart before it's actually complete and fully operational. It was quite informative and put on by outstanding people who have a lot of experience in it. I think I might mention also there was a presentation by a consultant that came up from Atlanta who does work around the country that looked at the shifting demographics of the country. We're not alone here in Falmouth. Certainly we're similar to what's going on throughout Massachusetts, but places like Atlanta, Minneapolis, places on the West Coast are all going through this issue of an insufficient amount of affordable housing to support business development or ongoing businesses. And we know businesses are moving around, and they're moving around to get to places where they have ready access to employees, and employees have to have a place to live. So there were some interesting stories about how businesses are actually moving into cities. We know General Electric is moving into Boston. Well, it turns out the National Cash Register that makes most of the automated teller machines around the world actually is moving into the center of Atlanta from a suburb of Atlanta. And why? Because now there are so many young professionals. Of course, they're moving right next to Georgia Tech. But there's so many people that are actually settling in the center of Atlanta, and there's housing available. So this business of providing housing that supports the businesses, it all has to kind of integrate together. But it's interesting to see that we share common problems throughout the country, and not just here in Falmouth, Cape Cod, and Massachusetts as well. So some really good data points and good insights on the kinds of pressures that we're facing economically.
Just briefly, there were, as Sue and Sam have noted, some great events both regionally and locally this last week. But I would just, I was really excited to attend the Falmouth Pride Day event at the Morse Pond School that was put on by No Place for Hate. And it was really well attended, very well done. And, as the mother of 2 children of color, it was a wonderful thing to see that we have a very vibrant organization that is, just taking the initiative and the lead in our community to make sure that we're celebrating and just understanding the value of diversity of all kinds. So it was really well done. It was attended by Congressman Keating was there. There were a number of individuals, and it was great. It was a fun atmosphere, and so I just want to thank that organization for putting that on. So.
No Place for Hate also ran a very moving vigil 2 weeks ago, yes, following the Orlando massacre, and just reiterating the kind of community that we live in, that is really reaching out to try to build a supportive and caring environment for all sorts of people.
Yes.
A highlight that I was able to enjoy this past week was that the Highfield has a fantastic Japanese print show that has traveled twice in 60 years, once to the British Museum and once to the Library of Congress, and now to Falmouth Highfield Hall. It's a fantastic exhibit. We had a ceremonial opening of 250 people, mostly from Japan on Thursday, and it will be open. I encourage you all to participate and see that building that this town came together to save, and it's a real highlight. 8:15, time for our next hearing. It's an application for a new wine and malt common victual license. Bangkok Falmouth, Inc., doing business as Bangkok Thai Cuisine. Let me read into the record. Notice of hearing. Notice is hereby given under Chapter 138 of the General Laws as amended that Bangkok Falmouth Incorporated, doing business as Bangkok Thai Cuisine, has applied for a new wine and malt common victual liquor license located at 291 Main Street, Falmouth. The hearing will be held at the Selectmen's Meeting Room, Falmouth Town Hall, on Monday, June 27, 2016, at 8:15 on the above application. Publication date, June 17, 2016. Mr. Sinidas, welcome.
Good evening, members of the board. My name is Brett Sinidas. I'm here this evening representing Bangkok Falmouth Incorporated, doing business as Bangkok Thai Cuisine. They're seeking an annual restaurant beer and wine license under Section 12 of the statute. The location is 291 Main Street, which is actually directly across from Falmouth Library, for your reference. My client is Somsak Sangwarn. Unfortunately, he couldn't be here this evening. He had a prior family commitment, but he wholly owns the business and is also the manager on the application. I think it's important to point out that this is actually the same business that was located at 809 Main Street, which is down next to Dairy Queen. My client ran the business there for approximately 10 years, had a beer and wine license there. I think it was very well received in town, very well run. Unfortunately, in 2012, one of the tenants in the building had a fire that started in their section and spread throughout the building, so the building was a complete loss, which is why basically that original license has lapsed. I should also point out that my client owns 5 other similar restaurants, 4 here on Cape Cod and 1 in Plymouth. He is only going to be the manager of Falmouth, however. He has managers for all the other restaurants that are in play. They all have beer and wine licenses. They've all have been running for quite some time, have been successful, and with no issues. In terms of hours, he would be open from 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. He's currently renovating the space at 291 Main Street. If you look in the application, there's actually a floor plan there that the building department utilized to grant him the building permit for the renovations. There was a total of 49 seats, what are comprised of both tables on the left-hand side and booths on the right-hand side. There's a very small bar area with 3 bar stools. I would suggest it's going to be mainly a service bar, but it's actually behind there where any alcohol would be stored. He's only going to serve beer in bottles. There isn't going to be a tap system or anything like that. Wine would obviously be stored back there as well. You'll see on the floor plan there are a couple coolers for those areas. The front entrance is right on Main Street. However, there's also an exit to the rear of the unit. As you go past the bar area, there's men's and women's handicapped restrooms that are going in. The kitchen is behind that, and then behind the building there's going to be 2 walk-in coolers. So there is 2 exits to the building if needed. The renovations going on now, my client anticipates being open sometime early to mid-August, hopefully. This is, obviously you have broad discretion in issuing new liquor licenses. As the licensing authority, I think there are a few issues that we can dispense of. This isn't a situation where noise would be an issue, or traffic would be an issue. One of the factors that's been discussed in various cases is the applicant's reputation in the community. I think this is a somewhat rare situation where we have an applicant who actually already ran a successful restaurant in town with a very similar license, a beer and wine license, without any issues. At this point, he's really just changing locations. In terms of public need, which is somewhat of the test, a couple things get looked at. the appropriateness of the liquor license for this type of entity, which is a restaurant, which I think one assume is fairly appropriate. However, the appropriateness of the liquor license for a particular location. We are on Main Street, which is zoned for this type of business. There are obviously a lot of other restaurants on Main Street that have liquor licenses as well. So I would suggest that it's consistent with what's going on Main Street. I grew up in Falmouth, as I know some of you did. Main Street is a very different place now than it used to be. Back in the 90s, when they decided to basically renovate Main Street, remove the poles, get them behind the buildings, expand the sidewalks, get rid of the parking meters, put in the new lighting, and just make it a lot more attractive place. It was at that point a lot of the restaurants started to come and emerge on Main Street. I did the licensing for a few of them myself. And it's really, I would suggest, transformed Main Street into a place that's very vibrant, very alive, not just in the summer anymore. It doesn't shut down at 9 o'clock at night. You see families going up and down. They're going out to dinner. They're going to Gelfies. They're going to Ben and Bill's afterwards. And I think a lot of it is the restaurants in town that are pulling the people in. At this point, we've got an Indian restaurant on Main Street, Irish pub, an English pub, 2 Italian restaurants, a Mexican restaurant, and various kind of American restaurants. I would suggest you kind of under the public need test that my client's restaurant would fit very well into what is on Main Street at this particular time. Being a Thai restaurant, I actually have some menus from one of his other restaurants that would give you some sense of what he serves. Pricing is very reasonable.
Thank you.
And this is something that we could offer on Main Street at this particular time.
Just to clarify, the location is across Cahoon Court from Baron Bub's, the Baron Boots Pub?
No, so it's down, it's literally, if you went out the front door of the library, down the center, it's straight ahead on, obviously the same side as Baron Boots. A little bit further down, so it was Dr. Dussault's building where the...
Right, but I think that's the location. It's just right across the alley from Baron Boots. Yep.
Yep. So, I mean, I would suggest this is a reasonable entity for the space. My client, again, does have a proven track record, both in town and in other towns here on Cape Cod. And I would suggest that he has met the test of showing that there is a real public need for this type of establishment, and he is someone that's worthy of holding a liquor license.
Any questions from the board? Ms. Moran?
How big is the bar seating again? How many?
It's only 3 stools.
3 stools?
Yep.
Okay, and what kind of liquor service system is he going to have? Tip certified bartenders?
Yep, everyone who works for him is tip certified. They go through the training every other year. We discuss that. Generally, he's on site as well as 1 or 2 waiters or waitresses who are also certified as well.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions?
No, I think the fact that, this is someone who's already, I know that the old restaurant started out as a BYOB. They didn't have a liquor license, was able to get one. I don't recall there being any difficulties there, and I do know after that fire, they've had the establishment in Mashpee, which is probably bigger than this, but has a similar very small bar and a limited, I think their liquor license is even more expansive than this one.
Yep.
So I think, to have that different type of cuisine on Main Street is appropriate, and given the space, and it's sort of someone we already know has done well by that license. I feel confident.
We should note that it is within 500 feet of the Mullen Hall Playground, as are the 6 or 7 other restaurants that are on that street. The school department has been notified about this application. I don't think they've had a chance to have a hearing, but it's actually is our decision anyway. And I think if they really had a concern, they would be letting us know right away.
I spoke
think
with
if we had a concern with this,
myself about the license. She had called me.
I think if we did have a concern, we'd have to then have a concern with retroactively of 4 or 5 other places. So.
Right.
But we do have to make a specific finding here, that it would not be detrimental to the educational activities.
Right. Any other discussion from the board? Is there anyone in the audience who'd like to speak on behalf of this application? Is there anyone who'd like to speak against this application?
Motion closed.
We have a motion to close and a second?
Second.
Second to close the hearing. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none. Hearing is closed. So we do have to have some, figure out what action we want to take and then what findings we find.
I move approval of the, let's see, this is a wine and malt liquor license for Bangkok Thai Restaurant doing business at, is it 291?
Wine and malt common victual license,
Oh.
291 Main Street.
291 Main Street.
With the finding that it would not be detrimental to the educational facilities going on nearby.
Yes.
And that there is a public need for an additional cultural restaurant on the Main Street.
Yes, so moved.
Second.
Motion and second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none. Great. Mid-August, you say?
Appreciate it.
Mid-August is what they're hoping for?
Yeah, hopefully mid-August. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Mr. Hoffer, we've actually discussed the beach parking policy, and we're thrilled with what's been drafted and voted on already, so
We complimented you.
Indeed.
unless you have,
We're all set, you have any questions?
no, we're all set, and I wish I had noticed that you were there earlier and sent you on your way if you want to, but there are other things going on if you want to stay for them.
You said 8:30, so for once I thought I'd time it.
Today was tough to guess the timing on.
I just had one question.
Sure, if you come to the podium, please.
Since I wasn't here when you voted Don Hoffer, be superintendent, the one thing I had added, although Mr. Suso, I don't think it made it from the one you got, where it says active duty. Did you discuss active duty military?
We noted it.
Did you mention dependents? If an active duty member is at sea, the wife has a card, an active duty, dependence card, I would think that would be part of the approval.
I think that,
That's the way I certainly interpreted the.
I agree.
what we voted on, so if that's the way you interpret it, we're on the same page.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Suso, could that be in the written policy?
Well, we discussed that with town council. It's embraced in the existing language,
It
we
is?
feel.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
We do have some committee members who are incumbents who are for regulatory boards, and our policy is that we do still interview those. They're not contested seats, but we still do want to see them and talk to them and ask them a question or two. So the first is the Board of Health, John Waterbury. Sorry, Steve. Wait your turn. I don't know why he's first on my list, but.
First name alphabetical.
For once.
J.
John Waterbury, Precinct 1, applicant for the Board of Health.
Why do you want to do it again?
Well, I've been doing it a long time, I enjoy it, it's a great group of people, and we get along well, and I think we serve the town well.
Just so people understand a little bit about the Board of Health, can you tell us what your most challenging assignment you guys had to deal with this year?
Well, at the moment, we've been struggling with swimming pool fences, which has been, the state slipped us a very ambiguous rule, which we were not allowed to vary. And so we've been trying to get the pools, the semi-public pools, up to speed with their fencing, safety fencing. And it's been a bit of a struggle, but we've managed to work through that.
Any other questions for Mr. Waterbury?
No, I mean, I've been to a number of Board of Health meetings, and it's a great working group with tremendous expertise. And I know John's been on that board for a long time, because I remember when we were dealing with the package treatment plant for the new Silver Beach area when I was on the school committee, and they wanted to put a soccer field in the back of the North Falmouth Elementary School for a drain field. So he was instrumental in helping us understand just what we were going to be absorbing. So thanks for all your contributions.
Thank you. Next is Stephen Rafferty.
I want to be on the board because John's on it.
And what's been the second biggest problem you guys are dealing with?
I would describe it as so much as a problem, but we got a little new energy on the board within the last year. We brought Diana on board, and we've actually been doing a little bit of focusing on what our real mission is, and particularly beyond just some of the reacting to the problems that come up, what can we be doing to promote healthy lifestyles in Falmouth and be supportive. So to that end, we've been supportive for some of the bike initiatives. We've been looking at the hoarding issue a little bit and how we fit in as one of the entities on solving hoarding problems and things of that nature. So that's actually been kind of interesting. I don't know if that's a problem, but it's caused us to have to look at what we're doing and rethink our role a little bit more and try to be more attentive to how we can help the community instead of just reacting to a problem brought before us.
I want to say in particular, I've noticed that in a big way, because as a policy-making body, it's very helpful to have the experts anticipate the issues so that we have a time to get up to speed. And by doing that groundwork and that research and the experts that are on the board and that you have direct contact with, tremendously helpful, especially in these fast-moving times of, you know, whether it's drug-related issues or water-related issues. It's been much appreciated, so I thank you for that.
Thank you.
When and where do you meet, just as a little advertisement?
Say that again?
When and where do you meet, just so a little, so people, if they want to come
We
to?
meet every other Monday night in the Civil Defense Room, which is downstairs from here.
Great.
I think we're at the old Board of Selectmen's table.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Should
Take this,
we vote on these?
absolutely.
I move approval of appointing John Waterbury and Stephen Rafferty to terms ending June 30th of 2019.
Second?
Motion is second to appoint John Waterbury and Stephen Rafferty. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none. The ayes have it. Congratulations, welcome back.
Thank you.
Next, for the Conservation Commission, we have three incumbents. Courtney Bird, we'll hear from first. Good evening.
Good evening.
So tell us why you want to do, what you want to do with the Conservation Commission and maybe something that's been going on with the commission recently.
I've been on the Conservation Commission for a long time. I think I served 11 years, 3 terms, and part of a 4th one as a full member, including a period as a chair. And then I took a year off, and being a glutton for punishment, I reapplied and was an alternate member. And I guess, as I understand it, there's a full membership, so I guess I'm applying for that. Conservation Commission is a difficult job, and because it involves a lot of balancing. Private property rights, people regard their property as their castle, and yet our regulations govern what people can do within 100 feet of a wetland or within other restrictions. And so there is the inevitable tension that occurs because people want to do things that, undertake activities within that area. What our role is to enforce the regulations, but to work with the people who come in and apply for doing things. And it's a difficult job, and I think we have a very good commission. I've seen it evolve over the years, and I think at this point the membership of this commission reflects a diversity of points of view, and I think that the judgments that we make are balanced, and I enjoy the work even though it's a tough job. But I also feel, as a citizen of Falmouth, I've lived here part-time since 1972 and full-time since 1980. And this town has given me a lot, and I feel it's important as a citizen to give back to the community. And this is one way to do it. And finally, I'll make a note, and if I'm boring you because I'm repeating myself from a previous time I was in here, I think one of the things that makes Falmouth special is that we, as a board and as a town, we're very concerned about what this town means, and and I remember back shortly after I bought the house that I live on, which is at the back of Little Sippawisset Marsh, my brother-in-law from Canada came down and he marveled at how beautiful it was. And then he came back about 2 years ago and he said to me, "I'm amazed." He said, "It's the same. I look out and it's beautiful and it's pristine." Well, we know there's a lot of challenges to keep it that way. And as development occurs, as population grows, the pressures on our environment increase. And so our job is to strike a balance. And so that's why I want to stay on and continue to do the work that I've done. Thank you.
Any questions?
I just want to highlight the fact that I'm sure a lot of homeowners and, property owners really appreciate how the board extends itself to educate them and work with them and to get the best result possible with respect to the competing efforts. So thank you for that.
Well, and I think part of our role is education. We can't walk around with a club and beat everybody over the head that does something they shouldn't do. And I think it's important to get people on board. That's how it works. And I think that the commission, as it's now constituted, does a very good job at that.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Bird? Okay, thank you very much. Next is Jamie Matthews.
Good evening. My name is Jamie Matthews. I'm here in support of my application to continue my stewardship with the Conservation Commission. I believe in my tenure that I have contributed well, and with your support, I look forward to serving another 3-year term.
What issue this year do you find most interesting to you that you've had to deal with?
I'm sorry?
What issue do you think was most interesting to you that you've dealt with this year?
As my colleague said, I like the idea of balancing the needs of the resources and property owner rights. It's a lot about education, as Courtney said. I like contributing to that.
And certainly watching the commission meetings this year, there seem to have been a number of times where you've had to go back on conditions that were imposed 10, 15 years ago, but weren't really followed through. And that must be quite a bit of a challenge to figure out what do you do now when something wasn't done, and trying to work with the applicant to actually accomplish what they're trying to do.
Yeah, it's difficult. It's a balancing act. Again, you're trying to maintain the resources, keep people in compliance.
Okay. Any other questions from the board? Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And Michael Powers.
Good evening. Mike Powers, T-Ticket Path. Anticipating the question, 3 reasons. First, very selfish. I roam around Falmouth looking at absolutely gorgeous property with beautiful settings. Probably seen 500 pieces of property. And it's just every job needs a reward system. And walking around Falmouth is my reward system. 2, I was a civil engineer practicing for 40 years and came before any number of conservation commissions. I think I owe it to my profession. We enforce the law of the Commonwealth, and somebody has to do it, whether you like it or not. And we are blessed, for the most part, in Falmouth, with engineers who really try to represent their applicant, their client, in a very fair manner, and still respect our bylaws. So, I owe it to that profession, which gave me the opportunity to live in Falmouth. And the third reason is I owe it to Falmouth. I was, my family brought me here when I was 2 years old to appreciate the beaches and the places. I've kept in touch, and here I am. And again, somebody has to do this. It's about 6 hours a week to do it right, to be fair. And I think you have to be a very special person to take 6 hours out of your life, and I do it because I'm about 80% retarded, I guess is the word, you know? I mean, here I am. Any questions?
Again, advertising opportunity, when does the Conservation Commission meet and where?
It meets about every week in this room, probably 45, 47 times a week, a year.
On Wednesdays.
On Wednesday, absolutely.
Great. And so people can either come in here or watch it on TV with the Conservation Commission. Any other questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
If I could, I didn't say anything. Sam has been, since he's come on board, is really appreciated. He shows up essentially every week. It's been alluded to, we make hard decisions. In so doing, we irritate a bunch of applicants, residents, and having someone who sit there from the town and say, yeah, you're being fair. We can't be kind to everybody, but we do our best to be fair, and I think Sam will tell you we try to do that.
He sets a very high standard for us other liaisons, so we do our best to work up to his standard. Okay.
Question, Mr. Chair.
Yep.
In noting the list of positions that are open, I had the question, are only 2 full-time positions open for Conservation Commission? Are we appointing 2 or 3? Because I know that Courtney is currently an alternate. The question I had was...
I was under the impression there were 3 positions open.
Okay, well, maybe the chart hasn't been brought up to date. Because it indicates 2 open positions.
Mhm.
I just want to make sure we don't over-allocate.
Everyone is a current member, right?
Pardon me?
Because I thought it was a 9-member commission.
Right.
It is. Maybe I'm looking at the wrong chart.
No, I think you're looking at the right chart. I think it just is, maybe it's not correct.
Well.
But I don't know.
I see Russ is here. Russ, can I ask a question about Mario's status?
Mario is getting off. That was one of the positions, Russ Robbins, Chairman of the Conservation Commission. That's one of the positions that's opened.
Okay, gotcha.
Is Mario's. And then John Poloni, which Jamie was filling.
Right.
Mike had his own position, so.
So there are 3 positions.
There are 3,
open.
and our
Okay.
total, I believe, is 10.
Right.
Is
that including an alternate, or is that?
That includes the 2 alternate
Right.
positions, actually 3 alternate positions. It's
'Cause those
7
7
full-time, 3 alternates, correct.
And these are 3 full-time positions that are up right now, is what I believe.
Okay, thanks, Russ, appreciate it.
This isn't the most helpful.
Right.
Well, it's a moving target, that's for
Yes,
sure.
yeah, absolutely.
Well, now I'd like to move approval to appoint Courtney Bird, Jamie Matthews, and Michael Powers to terms on the Conservation Commission ending June 30th of 2019.
Second.
Motion and second, further discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none, the ayes have it. Congratulations, and thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank
Stepping
you.
forward.
Thank you.
Next is
Ken Form?
for the Zoning Board of Appeals, Kenneth Foreman.
What can I say? Courtney actually, more eloquently than I, characterized the motivations for why I would like to continue to serve on the Zoning Board of Appeals. I have, through my involvement over the years with the 300 Committee, the Planning Board, and now the Zoning Board of Appeals, been interested in how I can contribute to help preserve what I consider to be the quality of life and character of Falmouth. And I think right now we have a very well-functioning board, and so I would just like to serve, this would be, I guess, my final term to complete my service.
And you're aware it's a 5-year term?
I am aware of that.
That's quite a commitment putting forward. Biggest challenge the zoning board has had to deal with this year?
Well, as you might guess, I would have to say it was the issue of the wind turbines.
Okay. Any other questions?
Probably not allowed to say more than that.
Yeah, I do have a question, Ken, because I've sat in on about 8 or 9 of the hearing meetings. And I feel sometimes like members of the Zoning Board of Appeals have forgotten what our local comprehensive plan goals are and not even taken a look at the Board of Selectmen's strategic plan. And sometimes advocate for, I'll call it, minority groups in their interests rather than looking at the broader benefits to the community. And I was just curious to know how you trade off when you're looking at, kind of looking out for the interests of a minority group versus looking at the overall benefits of the community. And the wind turbine one is a good example of it, because, I mean, with your turning down the special permit for Wind 1, you have put a burden of, according to town staff, of about $400,000 a year on the taxpayers in this town, us as residents, because of ongoing costs and then lack of revenues that they would generate. So how do you trade off between that issue of broader interest versus special interest?
So I think that because I served on the planning board as well.
Many years.
And the mission on the planning board was very much tied to the comprehensive plan, to looking broadly at how we might craft the bylaws to help meet the goals of comprehensive plan, whether that be, cluster development, smart growth, or trying to actually have some limits on growth. The mission of the zoning board is much more case-specific. We have a hard set of bylaws, and we have to look at each case as it comes before us and think about, if this were to go to court, what would the ruling be? What do the bylaws tell us our decision needs to be? At the same time, obviously, we're trying to balance, exactly as Courtney said, it's a regulatory board. We're trying to balance what are the rights of the landowner and what are the rights of the abutters who may or may not be aggrieved by a particular proposal. And so there is this special permit process that allows all sides to present their case, and then we look and see, are the criteria of the bylaw, do they fall in favor of, one side or the other, or are there conditions that we can impose that might allow a project to go forward and yet address perhaps the concerns of the abutters. So, but it really is, and this is one of the reasons I think we feel it's important to review and revise the existing bylaws. There's ambiguity, there's redundancy, there's contradiction within those bylaws. The nuisance bylaw, you're not supposed to be disturbing your neighbors at all. That's a pretty tough standard. Maybe that needs to be softened. I don't know. But, the bylaws have all been not only proposed by the planning board, but also approved by town meeting. So they have a lot of weight behind them. But that's, I think, the difference and the distinction between, I almost feel like everyone who serves on the planning board should probably spend some time on the zoning board and vice versa, so that they can better understand what the implications of a particular bylaw really are.
If you had to weigh one against the other, would you be more likely to weigh on the side of intent or side of letter of a law?
I think you have to be careful about intent. That's pretty vague, you know? When you're dealing with someone on the other side of the property boundary who's concerned about their impacts, they don't, it's great if the neighbor didn't mean to have some negative impact on them, but if he is having a negative impact, that's something we need to concern ourselves with.
Any questions? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. So I'm going to make a motion to appoint Ken Foreman to Zoning Board of Appeals, term ending June 30, 2021.
Second.
Motion and second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
I'm going to oppose.
Passes 3-1. Next is for non-regulatory boards. We have 2 applicants for a constable position, one incumbent and one new applicant. First incumbent, Ronald Braga.
Mr. Chair?
Yep.
I think I should recuse myself. Ron Braga is my uncle.
There did seem to be a similarity of name.
That's expected.
He's also my constable at my office, so.
So if you're refusing.
I will step up, yes.
Thank you very much.
There are 2 appointments we're making, or 1?
It is actually up to us. There is one position that is up for reappointment. The number of constables is actually up to the board to determine how many constables we want to have.
So we want to know how busy they are.
Right.
Mind if I present these to you?
What is it?
These are letters of recommendation.
Thank you.
And there was probably a couple others that came to town hall.
Thank you.
Okay, if you'd introduce yourself and tell us why
Ron.
you'd like to be a constable again.
My name is Ron Brager. I live in East Falmouth, Mass. at 33 Andrews Road. I've been a constable for the last 3 years, and I can't believe it's been 3 years already. It's flown by. I really enjoy the job, as you'll tell by those letters. I work with some wonderful attorneys, and I feel I've done a pretty gosh darn good job doing it, so and I would love to continue doing it.
To illuminate my ignorance, if you would tell me a little bit about what a constable does and how often you've had to do it, just so we can also answer Ms. Moran's question.
A lot of my, I'm one of the few constables that will also do full evictions. A lot of my business is when we go through the court process and we get to the point where the judge reaches a judgment and I have to evict the people. I call a moving company, and it's at the expense of the landlord, who then has to go after the defendant to get the money back. And I oversee all that. We have to document everything that comes out of the house, and it all gets in a registered store and lock location. And the landlord pays the first month's storage fee and also pays for the move, which can be quite expensive. It can run anywhere from $1,500. I've had them as high as the size of the house of $3,800. I also do a lot of no trespass notices. My number, along with the other constables, when people go into the police department, our numbers are there. They're handed a piece of paper. They're free to pick whatever constable they so choose. That's the bulk of my business, would be, I guess you would say, landlord-tenant disputes.
So in general, do you receive a lot of calls for your service that you're too busy to serve?
I can honestly say that I want to say it was Tuesday night, I received a call from a gentleman in Rhode Island, and he needed a serving done immediately, and I said, I can't do it. I'm in Harwich, and I'm not going to get done till 9. I won't be back to Falmouth till about 10. And, you know, I really frown on going to someone's house at 10 o'clock at night for a serving unless we had an emergency order of some type that they needed me to do. So that was the first one that has happened in 3 years. I usually am able to accommodate everybody within a reasonable time, and I work with Tommy Zines, I think he's here. There's been a couple times where he's needed help and I needed help. I also do capious arrests, so you don't like to do those on your own. So I've given him a couple things to do, but we always take care of the people in a reasonable time.
Thank you.
Any other questions? And you live in Falmouth, is that correct?
Oh, yes, East Falmouth on 33 Andrews Street.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Our next applicant is Harry Martin.
Good evening. My name's Harry Martin. I'm a resident in East Falmouth. I've lived in town for approximately 12 years, a property owner. The reason I'm attempting to become a constable, I am a full-time civil processor at present. I am a deputy sheriff serving civil process for the sheriff's office in Barnstable County. We are self-employed. We are not employees of the sheriff's office. I am a vendor, so it is my own business. I'm looking to expand my business. A lot of the law firms in Falmouth do not bother to use the deputy sheriff's office because of the distance involved. And in addition, the sheriff's office just bought our business. We were a private corporation previously, and we were given our authority as a deputy sheriff by the sheriff. The sheriff's office has taken us over with the intent of this eventually becoming uniformed deputies doing the civil process, which would leave us out. When that will happen, I don't know, but that is the inevitability of it. So I am a full-time processor. I'm looking to keep my business going and to try to expand it. I'm a career law enforcement officer. I've been working in law enforcement from 19 years old, starting as a special police officer in Boston, Cambridge, assistant director of security at the Hyatt Regency. My bachelor's and master's degree are both in criminal justice. I became a state trooper. I was on 14 years, half of which was in uniform. The other half I spent time in the major crime unit, the state fire marshal office, and my final assignment was a detective, narcotics detective at the Bristol County District Attorney's office. I was injured in the line of duty and given an honorable discharge and received retirement from that. Subsequent to that, I owned a retail business for 11 years. It was the only time I have not been involved in some type of law enforcement. And it gave me a nice perspective after all those years of being a police officer, of dealing in a retail business with people. I've been doing the serving with the sheriff's office now for 10-plus years, and in that time I have probably served 9,000 to 10,000 services, mostly capias warrants. I've done all of those without incident. I am very good at dealing with people. I don't have to threaten them. I don't have to handcuff them. I don't have to arrest them. It's a conversation. My experience from all my different jobs, it's a good experience as best it could be for both parties. So that's basically it. I want to continue to do this. This is my career. I'm a full-time civil processor. There is more time available since the sheriff's office took over. Previously, a lot of the clerical work we did ourselves in our own business. We don't no longer do that, so hey, I have the time in order to try to expand the business. I do understand that Mr. Braga is a current constable and is applying for licensing. If the board sees fit, I would ask the board, the state statute allows the town to appoint as many constables as they would like. I know it's the policy in Falmouth to keep it at, I believe, 6. I would ask the board to consider maybe expanding that. I feel I am uniquely qualified, and I would be a big asset to the town. Thank you. Any questions?
Any questions? No, thank you very much for your information.
Question for you, Mr. Chair. How many constables do we have, or will we have if we appoint?
I believe Mr. Martin is correct. We currently have 6, and he would
We
make
do
the 7th.
6.
Mr. Braga, maybe if you know.
It's 5.
It's 5 right now?
It's 5.
Okay.
That's what the Board of Selectmen voted about 3 years ago. They tapped it off at 5.
Thank you.
Tough call. I mean, Mr. Braga, I know already does a good job. Mr. Martin speaks with high qualifications for the job, and I've used constables my entire career as a lawyer, so Both of them answered the questions in a very professional manner, and that's exactly what I'd be looking for. The thing I'm struggling with is, is this the time that Falmouth needs to increase from 5 to 6? It's group of constables, when Mr. Braga says, in recent history, there's really only been one service that he himself has been unable to handle, and I don't know that that person was not able to get service from the other 4. So based upon the numbers, I guess I would just make the motion at this time for reappointment of Mr. Braga and not to increase the number.
Second.
Okay, with there being 2 candidates, the way we're going to do it is you can nominate whoever you want to nominate, and if there are more nominations than we have positions. we'll
So
have a
I'm
vote.
nominating Mr. Braga.
Okay,
Second.
that just needs a second.
Mhm.
All right, are there any other nominations? I entertain a motion to close nominations.
Motion to close.
Second.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
There being only 1 nomination and 1 position, we can now, kind of is a rubber stamp anyway, but we do need to actually have the vote.
I move we appoint Ronald Braga to constable with position, the term ending June 30th of 2019.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's a little practice for what we're doing tomorrow night when we have 4 candidates in 1 position, that we will have to go through the nomination process and then the actual. We now have some new applicants for some vacancies. Again, these are positions where we have the number of applicants is equal to the number of positions we have, but we still would like to talk to the people. First is the Agricultural Commission, which has 3 vacancies, term ending 2017, 2018, 2019. We have 1 applicant, Karen Schwalbe. If you'd introduce yourself and tell us why you would be a good member of the Agricultural Commission.
I'm Karen Schwalbe from East Falmouth, Massachusetts. I'm the Executive Director of the Southeastern Massachusetts Agricultural Partnership. We are the buy local organization for Bristol, Plymouth, and Norfolk counties. I was a 9-year member of the Agricultural Commission and took my hiatus this past year, and I am looking to re-up my appointment.
So not qualified at all?
No. Yeah. And, just had to be dragged back kicking and screaming, quite obviously. No. I've attended some of the meetings during the break. The Agricultural Commission in Falmouth has a role in promoting farming, keeping open space, agricultural open space available. And with some new legislation in the State House, I think we'll have potentially a more important role in how agricultural land is determined. The Omnibus Ag Bill, which is in the Ways and Means Committee right now, has a provision for agricultural commissions to actually hold agricultural lands, similar to how the Conservation Commission holds lands. So, there's, also other legislation that will allow agricultural commissions to advise boards of health on animal health issues, since many boards of health aren't qualified on those issues. So it's an exciting time to get back in. I think there could be some good changes coming from the State House that would affect Falmouth.
So in describing this law, the new act, would that mean that Peterson's Farm could actually be held jointly by the Concom and the Agricultural Commission and actually run to serve that purpose?
Yes.
Exciting.
Yes, it's good.
Any other questions?
I may have missed it, but which term are your?
It's up to us which
Oh, it's
term.
up to us. Okay, I didn't know if she expressed a preference at all.
I don't think we'd let her.
I move that we appoint Karen Schwalbe to the Agricultural Commission term ending June 30th of 2019.
And those meet on Tuesday night at 5:30, is that correct?
It's been Wednesday at 5:30
Wednesday.
in the small meeting room.
Okay. No wonder I haven't found you guys. Wednesday at 5:30, all right, we have a motion. And second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none?
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Next is the Board of Assessors, has 1 vacancy, a term ending June 30th, 2019. We have 1 applicant, Brian Ridgway. Come forward and introduce yourself and tell us why you want to be on the Board of Assessors.
Okay?
Yep.
Yes.
Just arrived.
Perfect timing.
Yes.
I'm Brian Ridgway. Lived in Falmouth for about 4 or 5 years. Been a certified residential appraiser for over 20 years, and I'm now retired, and I thought I could help out, and I'd be interested in serving on the board.
Do you know much difference between the Vermont assessors?
It's different, but, you know, I've spent plenty of time appealing for homeowners, et cetera, before the listers and things like that, so I understand the process.
Okay. Great. Any questions for Mr. Ridgway? Great, thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you.
Want me to do it?
Sure.
I move that we appoint Brian Ridgway to the Board of Assessors for the term ending June 30th, 2019.
Second?
Motion is second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, none. The ayes have it. Congratulations. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
The Design Review Committee has 4 vacancies. We have 1 applicant. We have 2 alternate member terms ending June 3rd, 2017, and 2 full members ending June 3rd, 2019. I'm not sure if this still makes them have a quorum yet, but we should go ahead with the process anyway. Sarah?
So, hello,
Hi.
I'm Sarah Bridget Leutner, and I'm applying for a position on the Design Review Committee. I am a recently new member to the Falmouth community, but I am not I'm not foreign to design. I've been a designer for over 15 years, first in fashion design and currently in interior architecture and interior design. I've also had experience in marketing, which I would assume will have a nice influence on my role in the Design Review Committee.
Questions? I guess to understand the Design Review Committee is fairly limited now in mostly sign review committee as opposed to design. So the planning
Exactly.
board has taken on the old role it used to have in design, but you're aware that that's the situation.
Yes, absolutely. But signs, add a very important element of aesthetics to a town. So.
What's your favorite sign in town?
Oh, goodness.
Besides the Hutker one, we don't want to say
I know,
that,
wait,
because that one
you say the Hutker
you
one.
can't, gotta discount that one, I know.
That's quite the sign.
Oh.
Wow, you really put me on the spot. I don't know if I have a favorite sign.
Which signs do you think are the ones that fit a Falmouth the best, and say, yeah, that's one that fits well?
I'm going to have to drive around and pick that one out. A little too busy working these days.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome to town.
I move that we appoint Sarah Burgett to the Design Review Committee for the term ending June 30th of 2019.
Second.
Motion is second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none? And I do like that some people come to town and quickly decide they want to get involved in the committees. These are the past 2 who are fairly new people to Falmouth, but are eager to step forward and encourage as many people as possible to do that. Next is the Recreation Committee, has 2 vacancies, term endings June 3rd, 2019. We have 1 applicant, Robert Brown. Mr. Brown here?
Table that one?
All right. General policy is that we do like to interview new applicants or returning from regulatory, so why don't we see if we can reschedule that to a time when he can be here, please. All right, we have for the Upper Cape Cod Regional Technical School Committee is 1 vacancy, an unexpired term that goes until November 30th, 2016. We have 1 applicant, Marianne Smith. You could step forward.
I just also might say I'm fairly new to the community. My husband and I purchased property about 5 years ago, and as of October this year, we are full-time residents of the town of Falmouth. I've been very excited about it. I've enjoyed the community. For my life, I served in Berkeley, the town of Berkeley, which I lived for 37 years and raised 4 children. And my goal being a resident of a community is to get involved. So I was reading the newspaper and a regional school committee member. I served on the Berkeley School Committee for 23 years. 21 of those years I was the chairperson. I served, I was voted by the Massachusetts School Committee. I received an award for Schools Committee Person of the Year one year, which I was very grateful. During my tenure, we hired 3 different superintendents. I participated on the committees with negotiation to the Mass Teachers Association. You've asked what is one of the most difficult things you do on the job. Well, that was the most difficult. The other most difficult was getting building projects put through. We put an addition on the middle school, which helped us to expand to put in a new elementary school. We transferred our students out to Somerset High. We paid tuition there. And then it got to the point we wanted to buy land to see if we could develop our own high school. So I was involved very much with that. We did purchase the land, but we never did build a high school because it was not feasible to have 400 pupils and build a high school. You couldn't offer the programs that we felt were important. So at that point, I had left the school committee. And as I was very busy, I was fully time employed now. I did my first, I worked 26 years at Cardinal Cushing / name change, the Good Samaritan Medical Center in their ICU. So by trade, I'm a nurse. After I left the Good Sam, I took a new course in my career and I became the director, regional director of marketing and business development for a healthcare company. I stayed there for 19 years and now I am retired. And I'm here tonight to let you know that I'm very interested in the Upper Cape Regional High School position. I understand the importance of a regional high school. The schools were different years ago. They were seen for the students who went there because they couldn't find a good place in the present town high schools. But I find that it's a total new school. Kids now are going on to college from these programs that are in the school now, and I think that's important. I think the trades are important with the economy we have. I think it's a new generation of our plumbers, builders, horticulturists. There's many, many more. I presently have a granddaughter at the Bristol Plymouth, and she is going on to take a career in graphic design. She wants to be the next Walt Disney. So we keep our fingers crossed, but I understand the importance of that type of high school in our programs.
Great.
Any questions?
Questions? Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you for stepping forward. You know, committees really need to be made up of people who've been here for 10 months or people who've been here as long as Mr. Eastman has been.
Be careful. I move that we appoint Mary Ann Smith to the Upper Cape Cod Regional Technical School Committee for a term ending, let's see, I guess it's November 30th of 2016, which is just not very long from that.
That's the way I guess I have to run.
Then you'll have to come back again, but please.
It's funny because that's how I originally got on the Berkeley School Committee. And look what happened. 23 years later.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none. The ayes have it.
Thank you.
Next, Charles Eastman for the Waterways Committee. We have 2 vacancies, term ending June 30th, 2019.
Excuse me for 1 minute. Who do I notify at the regional school? You?
If you come actually into the office tomorrow and talk to Michael Palmer, who's our town clerk, He will.
Okay, I'll be there. Thank you very much. Very nice meeting you all.
Congratulations.
Yes, thank you.
Hi, my name is Chuck Eastman, and I'm applying for the waterways. I've lived in Falmouth my whole life, and I was thinking about it, and I think to my grandfather, my father, and myself, as I've had a boat in every harbor in Falmouth except North Falmouth. I'm not familiar with that particular harbor. I own a fish and tackle store, so I'm familiar with the chartered people that rent from the town. I also own a boat presently, and for those reasons, that's why I'm interested in the Waterways Committee.
No North Falmouth, though.
No North Falmouth.
They're out of
Never.
luck.
But I did go there in my teenage years to the tea room, so I'm somewhat
You're in.
familiar with the
That
North
makes it-
Falmouth
okay, that makes
Harbor.
it-
Perfect.
We're in.
I'm just curious what your view is on balancing boating and shellfishing, for example.
Shellfishing now and in the future is going to become a very popular activity. And I think shellfishing probably outweighs boating to some extent, as long as the boats stay away from the shellfishing areas and whatever. But especially, for example, West Falmouth, which you're familiar with, it's so shallow in there that I don't think there would be a conflict. And in other harbors, that probably exists as well. Like in Quistit on your way out, a lot of the oysters are on your right-hand side, and it's shallow, and boats can't get in there. So I think they can live together, as we say.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions for Mr. Eastman?
Okay.
Great, thank you.
Thanks for stepping up.
I move that we appoint Charles Eastman to the Waterways Committee for the term ending June 30th of 2019.
Okay.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, none. And Robert Brown, I believe, has come in for the applicant for the Recreation Committee.
Oh, good. Thanks, Chuck.
Great. Hi, if you'd introduce yourself and tell us why you want to be on the Recreation Committee, please.
Good evening. My name is Robert Brown. I've been living in Falmouth now for 29 years. I have a son that uses many of the services of the Recreation Department, and I've been to 2 meetings so far, and I think it's very interesting. I think I could help out. I think it's a good department, and I think it provides a great service to Falmouth.
Mr. Moran?
What would be your top 3 ideas to continue the vibrant use of the Gus Canty Center for recreation?
I think to get more children in there to play some of their, well, maybe not just the Gus Canty Center, maybe the programs that they use other schools like Mullen Hall, North Falmouth, to get as many children as possible that could come out. The cost is minimal, $26, and recruit as many children that can come in and play. I know that sometimes there's not enough children for teams, and I think that maybe more flyers or something like that, or more people coming into the school to talk to them, to get them to join, might be helpful. I think the Gus Canty Center is a nice building, and the teen center probably needs some remodeling and maybe some capital improvements.
Thank you.
Do you find that the specialization that the kids go through is diminishing some of the sports, that you have some kids who play one sport and that's all they do, as opposed to, I think when the rest of us were growing up, say, no, and these 2 months you did this sport, and these 2 months you did this sport, and you just kept switching around?
Well, my problem is with my son, he plays everything. So I think a diversity of what sports you play is probably a good idea. I think Tom Brady even agrees with that. I think he was an all-star catcher.
That's right. And I think the Gus Canty provides that opportunity,
Right.
because as you're saying, for $26, your kid can do a sport. It's not a significant commitment if it doesn't end up being their greatest achievement.
And the rec committee meets on Wednesdays, is it the third Wednesday or the?
Second Wednesday.
Second Wednesday, and at the Gus Canty
And
Center.
next month, they're having a tour of all the ball fields.
Great.
Okay, any other questions for Mr. Brown?
No.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I move that we appoint Robert Brown to the Recreation Committee for the term ending June 30th of 2019.
Second.
Motion and second to appoint Robert Brown. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Well, we got through some appointments.
Yes.
Next, we'll go back to the discussion of the potential special election. We have Mr. Duffy and Mr. Palmer here. We did have a question. We had started the initial discussion about whether we even have the possibility of choosing between the September and the November dates for the election. Do you have an opinion as to whether that's supposed to be? Okay, right. We did officially table this discussion, so I entertain a motion to take it off the table.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Mr. Palmer.
You're basically going to have to be running two separate elections. If you hold it on either day, you'll be holding the town special election and the primary, two separate elections. Hopefully, we'll be able to use the same poll workers to do it on the same day as the primary.
There's no way we can request permission from the state to put it on one ballot for the September election?
I talked to the special counsel for the Secretary of the Commonwealth, and it was pretty unlikely that could possibly happen. They're pretty far down the road getting these set up and getting them formatted to be printed, and then getting them out to overseas. There's UCAVA requirements that require them getting out in a 45-day period prior to the election, so they're pretty far along. It would take an act of the legislature to do that. And again, special counsel to the secretary had said that would be pretty unlikely to happen. I think they're out of session now. I think so they have to be called back into session and do, or however they do that.
And does the September timetable give us enough time to get our ballots to absentee ballot?
You have to have voted on it 64 days prior to the election, so that would be July 6th would be for the September 8th primary. So in all intents and purposes, you'd have to decide tonight whether you want to do that or not.
But there's no restriction, that we could not do it on the presidential primary time, presidential election, November date. There's nothing saying that we could not do it then.
There's nothing saying that you couldn't. I mean, I would recommend doing it in the primary for a couple of different reasons. You're talking moving it till November, so you're putting it off another 6 months. And you're talking to an election where you're going to have early voting is going to be taking place. We're going to be using our new voting equipment. We're going to have 75 election workers that are all pretty stressed out. You get an 80% turnout at the presidential election. You put a lot of stress on those people to the number of things that possibly could go wrong. You're adding whole nother layer of possibilities when you try to maintain.
So as I understand, there are three aspects. One is that it's a presidential election, so the numbers will be higher. The second is we're switching to new voting booths or new voting machines for the November election, not the September.
September also we'll be using.
Right, and that.
Just the turnout would theoretically be lower, but I mean, anybody can come out and vote for the selectman's candidate at the primary. I mean, nothing's holding them back to come out. At the presidential election, people are driven by the presidential candidates, not necessarily the Board of Selectmen candidates.
Okay. You have a question, Mr.?
Yeah, a question. How will you handle the separate ballot? Will you have to have two different machines to record the votes, to tally the votes?
No, but we'll have to have two separate check-in books, so that's becomes confusing for, logistically, I mean, we're going to have to work on that and figure out how that's going to happen and how the poll workers are going to deal with that on election day. There will be two separate ballots, and I'll have to check in and out for both of them, so it could be relatively confusing. It's something we haven't done here in Falmouth, at least as far back as I go. I don't know.
But the ballot machine can take two different ballots.
Well, yeah, in a primary, we have 4 different ballots already, so to add a 5th ballot is not, I don't think would be, just a programming issue that they would be able to do that.
Gotcha. Yeah, you know, I mean, I worry a little bit about the candidates not having enough time to really communicate with the electorate, such that the electorate feels comfortable that they can make a choice, an intelligent choice. Any feeling on which one of the two dates would work best for?
Well, this is June, you're talking September, so there's 4 months, so,
yeah.
I mean, that would certainly be up to you. Again, I would think my preference would be September, but there still is from now until September that the candidates could do their campaigning
and get out the vote to vote.
But I, I feel that concern a little bit. I mean, I think, understanding that it's easier sort of logistically, perhaps in September because of the possible turnout in November, balancing that with the fact that it is June, but it's almost July. It's summer, to run a campaign, to have some of the events, to introduce yourself. I'm just, I think there's a challenge there, but I also put a lot of weight on what Mr. Palmer is saying about what makes sense to run a smooth election. It's already, a lot on the town we're gonna have, presumably, a pretty raucous November, it seems like, with new machines, and it's a presidential election, so.
And a big issue for me with the November is early voting.
Right.
I have no idea how this is even gonna work yet. They haven't finalized the regulations and how many people will take advantage of that. So are we gonna allow early voting to take place for a special town election? It's not necessarily by law that you have to, but do you? So I don't know. I would have to ask that question. Can you use early voting for a town election?
Because it'd be confusing not to have early voting
Right.
for both at the
Right.
same time,
Right.
but then to have early voting for this the very first time. Those are the three reasons with the early voting, the presidential, and new
Yes.
machines. Is this.
That's compelling.
Yeah.
I think if Mr. Palmer is telling us he prefers September, it is the board's decision, but that's, his arena in terms of making sure we have a smooth, orderly election where people understand what they're voting for. And again, if they're voting early or any of those things, they have the opportunity to have their voices heard. I think, to me, it's worth the trade-off of, I think it would be a bit of a challenging campaign season, but that is what it is, I guess.
And it's a level playing field for all the candidates.
Yes,
anyways.
it's challenging for everyone, yes.
You want to make a motion?
I would move that we set the special election to be,
That language actually has to be very specific.
okay,
There's-
sorry.
Somebody has made a motion.
There you go.
No, okay. All right, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to move that the Board of Selectmen, in accordance with the provisions of Section C3(1)B of the Falmouth Home Rule Charter, call a special election to fill a vacancy on the Board of Selectmen, and that special election be scheduled for September 8th, 2016, and that the town clerk notify the voters of the town of appropriate last dates for obtaining nomination papers, returning nomination papers, withdrawing from the election, registering to vote for the election, posting the warrant in the place of time. Each precinct polling station will be open for the election.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Just to advertise those nomination, because it is a fairly short window, we will have them available tomorrow morning, and they will need to be returned by July 22nd. So there's about a 3-week period to circulate, and they'll need 50 signatures to be placed on the ballot.
So by July 22nd, they need to get
July
nomination
22nd,
papers
need to
back.
be, the last day to pick them up would be the 21st, last day to return them would be the 19th would be the last day to obtain them. The last day to return them would be July 21st with 50 signatures.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And thanks, Mr. Duffy, for coming back also.
Yes.
Next item is the notification of second quarter TTHM results at Nobska sample location. Mr. Rafferty, welcome back.
No, it's, I don't think
Blue
it's
light's
been.
flashing, so.
Oh.
At least on the projector.
Steve, you might want to touch that LCD projector to turn it on, let it warm up. Just once, that should it, that should it. Give it a chance.
Yep.
I've really spread out here.
You like this four-person board, don't you?
Learned how to play an instrument, but I always wanted to go on the stage, just the microphone.
Just don't kick it down at the end of your presentation.
I'm not Jimi Hendrix. If you knew Jimi Hendrix, well, that's not true. Now, this is on, right?
The computer's on yet. I'm not sure the computer's on.
Does it search here?
and if you don't mind, I know I had a one-pager before, but I put together 4 or 5 slides just to walk through.
Certainly.
Pass that down.
I think the projector's fine, it's the computer's not on yet.
Turns out the button turns this on the opposite side of the microphone.
Right.
Yeah, it's coming slowly.
So just to set the stage here a little bit, this is the third time I've come before this board. In essence, making a public notification of a TTHM exceedance. And that exceedance is still at the same place the last two were, which is at the sampling location. We have it in Obscure Light. While I'm waiting for this to come up, I have used in the past a graphic that shows the 8 sampling locations. We sample at 8 locations because a number of years ago, we did an analysis to come into compliance with this whole sampling program, in which the sampling locations represent both areas that are typical, that would be like Main Street Fire Station, East Falmouth Fire Station. Instead of starting windows still, so I'm just letting it start. And then it also represents a series of locations that were defined through an analysis of the system as being sort of the extremities of the system. One of those being Black Hills Beach, one of them being Nobska. One of them being 40 Point Road, and the other one being 250 Hill and Plain Road up in the northeastern side of town. Is there a password I have to type in now?
It's on there somewhere.
It is.
You said that out loud.
Don't tell anybody. It's obsession. Once we're booted up, I'll get through this quickly.
Can I ask you a question while we're waiting for that to come up? Why, do you have an explanation for, this is a disinfectant byproduct from adding chlorine to, because of the organisms that are in Long Pond? But it seems like we've had this problem with the Woods Hole sampling point, and it's significantly higher in that byproduct, this trihalomethane, than other sampling points throughout the town. Any explanation why that particular sampling point is higher?
End. It's the end of the line.
That's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to walk through why we get a big number there, and what we're trying to do about it. And how do I find?
I think go to computer.
Top left.
Top left, thank you.
Yep.
And we are getting close to the start. With luck, I've done everything right. And if not, I shut this off and just wing it.
Either way. Even close. There you go.
Here we go. So we begin. All right. So, as I was explaining before, there's 8 locations in town. This is the second quarter public notification of the TTM exceedances. To remind everybody, there's 2 things that get formed by chlorine combining with organics. Total trihalogenated methanes, the magic number is 80 parts per billion, and Haloacetic acids, for which the magic number is 60. So public notification requirements, part of which I'm fulfilling tonight. We have to actually do a direct mailing to all of our customers. All 21 somewhat thousand of them have to be notified per the way the rules are set up. We have to publish in the local paper. It was published last Friday, some of you might have seen it. There's a formal notification to the Board of Health, and there's a formal notification to the State Department of Health. Very quickly, I've done this before, but just for those at home who may just not know this or remember it, what are disinfection byproducts? It comes from a reaction of chlorine with organic matter. And the factors that determine the actual concentration of the disinfection byproducts: how much chlorine you're applying, how much organic matter is present, and the third one is actually the one we have some of the most control over, the amount of time from the point of disinfection to the point of use. And that's determined by the size of the pipe, the distance of the pipe from Long Pond, which is the source of the organic matter. Whether it's a dead-end pipe or a looped pipe, if it's looped, it's more likely to flow around a little bit, not sit there. The number of customers using the water, I'm going to talk to that a little bit when we get into this, and the seasonality of the usage. On the very first bullet, concentration of chlorine applied for disinfection. After the last one, I appealed to the state to be able to back down on the chlorine we're using because that value was set after the boil water order. Their very firm position was you will disinfect at the rate we told you to do after the boil water order until your new plant comes online. They did not want to drop below that because it's an unfiltered surface water supply. The concentration of the organic matter present, we have very little control over it. It's what's in Long Pond, whether it's leaf litter or algae. It changes seasonally as the pond turns over, but that's not something we can reduce. We can reduce organic matter that's sort of settled out in the system by doing a flushing program, which we have been running. I know at least one member on the board is a math teacher. This is what we're facing here is a math problem, a little bit, although it's not to diminish the fact that we have high levels out at the Nobska location. The value that we are held to is the average of 4 values. So if I go all the way back to the spring of 15, the average of 4 values was 71.9, and we measured 72.2. The sample value is what we measured. We had some high values coming out last summer. We had a high one in the fall. It came down a little bit in the winter, but we had pretty turbid water in the pond all winter. And the most recent value we took was actually a fairly good value for this location, but it will take a string of 71s to get it down below the 80.
Or that 171 has to be like 51 to get it.
Yeah, it's not going to go to 51. Right. I need to get a string of 70s or lower. So it is a little bit of a math problem, but that just shows you what happens. For those of you that know your way around town, what you're looking at here is a map that shows Nobska Lake. That's in the very bottom of the picture, and that's where we sample. There's a hydrant facing out towards Vineyard Sound there. The area I've boxed out in red is actually an area by which the water that gets inside that box, gets into that box by coming down either F.R. Lilly Road or down the back end of Oyster Pond Road. For those of you that know this area, you know that there's a lot of MBL seasonal housing that is completely empty all winter. You know, there's an awful lot of seasonal housing along Fay Road that's completely empty all winter. And there's an awful lot of seasonal housing up at Nobska Point that is empty all winter. So we're really battling the fact that to change the time factor, which is one of the few things we can do, we're kind of up against it at this location, okay? The good news, I guess, is that the state, in the analysis we did years ago and submitted to them, they did probably choose the worst location in town. So we know that everything is better than whatever we're measuring here at all times.
Because the other dead-end loop was up at Black Beach, and those numbers are...
But if I was to draw the red box around it, of where the people aren't, it's nowhere near as extensive or as long, okay? So what are we doing to actually minimize the impact out at Nobska? Because there are still some people living out there. We actually did a subset of sampling, not a state officially sponsored, not designated sampling locations, but we sampled at 6 locations throughout the Woods Hole Peninsula just to verify that the numbers increased the further we got from Long Pond, to verify that where water comes down the 16-inch pipe on Quisset and gets all the way down to Woods Hole for the institutions down there, that the numbers down there were low. When we sampled out at the Woods Hole Yacht Club, we got numbers like 25, okay? When I sampled at a site inside Wilson Road, which represented an internal sort of section between some old pipe, but where a few people are still living in the wintertime, I got a number like 35, which, you know, they matched up with age and prediction. And then we set up a bleeder at the Nopska sampling location. So if any of you have driven by and seen water kind of trickling over a rock on the ocean side, for 60 out of every 90 days of the sampling cycle, I can run that bleeder, which has a very positive effect of bringing the number down, in order to be able to measure our worst value, which is representative, you know, the worst we have compared to all the other dead ends. I have to shut that off 30 days before. So for roughly 60 out of every 30 days, what they're actually getting is a lower value, and that number's in the 40s when I go measure it, okay? And all that does is that demonstrates that when there's a flow of water, there's an acceptable level. Okay, but there is a long-term solution, and I've said this before. When we complete the water treatment plant, as you've heard, on schedule, on budget still, it will remove the organics from the system. When we complete the water treatment plant, we will no longer be a surface water. Unfiltered surface water supply will be able to lower the chlorine dosage and continue the flushing program in the fall and spring each year to clean out what's inside the pipes. The short-term solution I've got in place is intermittent bleeding of the Nopska branch. As I said, roughly 60 out of every 90 days. And then as people call in or check in with us, and I'll reiterate it tonight, if you're actually concerned about this issue, if you use an activated carbon filter for the water you drink, that will really knock down the TTHMs. That's actually the recommended way to do it. So, you know, a Brita filter on your faucet or next to your kitchen sink that you put the water in for your ice cubes, the dog bowl, and drinking. Any questions?
Was it a different chemical that long hot showers for pregnant women
No,
was an issue?
that was the TTHMs. That was a Board of Health advisory, yep.
Okay, so it's the same issue?
Same issue. Yep. Yep.
Any other questions?
Just, is there anyone in particular that should be especially cautious?
This falls under, so there's tier 1 and tier 2 things. Tier 1 are things that will make you sick, like right away, like that leads to boil water orders and stuff. This is under tier 2. For these compounds, they talk about a 70-year exposure, a duration, you know, you're pretty much drinking a quart or more of water every day over that period, and a proportional increase in certain liver or immune system things. But again, it's something in the water that shouldn't be there. And if you want to be sure of keeping it away from you, use the activated carbon filter. You know, if you're only there for 3 months of the year and you're someplace else, hopefully the other 9 months you're not getting the same water.
One more quick. Just in light of Mr. Dufresne's question, I know you mentioned at a previous visit here that you were involved or had information about painting the hydrants as the flushing program moved on. Can you update that?
Close to 300 hydrants painted as of today.
Great.
We started flushing initially in the Seacoast Shore 2 springs ago, and that is where we began painting the hydrants. We're painting the hydrants in the areas we flush rather than jumping around based upon the squeaky wheel theory, because we're more efficient. And we send a crew out, prep a series of hydrants, and paint a series of hydrants.
Thank you.
If it takes 5 years to flush the system, it might take 5 years to paint all the hydrants.
Thanks.
Thanks. Any other questions?
I do have one technical question. I mean, would boiling water get rid of this trihalomethane?
Actually, no. You'll volatilize the water, and that's, you don't want to, it's a very small component, but you don't want to inhale these products.
That's why the long hot showers is
That's why
what
I'm
this
glad we got the health
recommends.
advisory to put out.
So you absorb it by inhaling the
You
vapors?
could, yeah, some of the products that are formed will volatilize, so. No, boiling no, carbon.
Let me just ask one other question. So when you're doing the bleeding the 60 out of 90 days, right?
Yep.
That's presumably lowering the levels because you're moving water around?
Yeah, because it's not a dead-end line.
Right, so for right now, the sort of Band-Aid that's going on is that you are, in general, even though we're getting these numbers at times when you're checking them, you are, I mean, there are processes in place, just the best that you can do.
I'm doing whatever I can to make the water as safe as I can.
Right,
Yep.
so folks aren't, this number doesn't represent necessarily, on a daily basis what people are exposed to if you look at that.
I would love to diminish the fact that we have a value over the limit when we properly sample that location. I still am continuing to strongly advocate for, and I've talked to a number of the people that are year-round residents out in that portion and checked off that they do have some form of carbon filtration in place. So we are doing our best to minimize it, but I don't want to promise that we're knocking it down to the point where you don't have to have any concerns about it.
Right.
And it's not unlikely that November's reading will be in the higher, or the low 80s, or the December reading, because...
Actually, right now, it's a little counterintuitive. As more people come in, even though we're taking more water from Long Pond, it's getting there quicker. So the time factor is so we're likely to get another 70, I think.
But December, January next year is when you're...
Right.
And then by April, we'll be in great shape. May.
Well, interestingly, depending on what the numbers are, we could find ourselves having to fight through another 1 or 2 quarters with the new plant online till the quarterly average gets down.
That's true. Okay, right.
I have one more technical question. If time is what actually creates this, if you drink the water, right, you've got all the reactants in it. Isn't it eventually going to show up in your body over time?
I defer to anybody that's a scientist to take that question and answer it for me.
Thanks.
Usually when I drink, it doesn't stay in my body that long. We're talking literally like 30 days of travel time from Long Pond to Nobska in the winter. That's why we have to stop bleeding 30 days before we sail.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Our next item is the request for a special event permit fee waiver from Arts Falmouth for the Arts Alive and the Jazz Fest. These are 2 different events. Mr. Day.
Steve, could you take the mic back up, please?
Roger,
Oh.
sorry.
Or, Roger, thank you.
You adjust it so it works.
It's your turn to pretend you're Jimmy.
He will, careful.
I will stay there.
Good evening. My name is Roger Day. I'm the chairman of Arts Falmouth. We're a membership organization that supports and promotes the arts in the town of Falmouth. We are probably best known for the festivals that we promote, one of which is the traditional music stroll in Woods Hole in May, the second of which is the subject of tonight's discussion, which is the Arts Alive Festival that just took place, and the third is Jazz Fest, which takes place the first weekend in October. You will note that none of them take place during July and August. As an organization, we're big proponents of trying to support the artists and the cultural organizations here in town, and we're interested in supporting tourism. One of the reasons why 2 of our events take place on Main Street is we are trying to attract people to support the businesses in the Main Street area. Arts Alive Festival, 3 days long. We usually draw a good number of backyard tourists from every zip code from South Yarmouth to the canal, and a great number of zip codes basically from Boston to Framingham to Providence, with a smattering of New Hampshire and Maine. Usually 155 to 165 different zip codes, including some outliers from California and Oregon and who knows where. We draw those people to Main Street. We have 50-some artists at the Arts Alive Festival, and those folks sell their wares, so we're directly supporting the arts community with that. And we are deliberately staging Arts Alive on the same weekend as the St. Barnabas Strawberry Festival, to get people to walk down there and then come back up, so that we have traffic on Main Street in front of all the stores. I of course, am terribly prejudiced about this. I think we're delivering a public good at little or no expense to the town, and that the revenues that the town would get by charging us the event fees are insignificant to the town, although for a struggling nonprofit, I mean, every dollar is very important. So that is essentially my case as to the request.
Questions for Mr. Day?
I would say a comment more than anything else. I happened to stroll through Friday evening of the first day of Falmouth, of Arts Alive, and I was impressed because I ran into a lot of people I know from Falmouth that were there enjoying the music and the exhibits and what have you. So it is quite a community event, in addition to all of the other folks that get drawn into Falmouth on that particular weekend. Strawberry Festival being a big draw as well. So, I mean, it really is a great supporter of the culture of Falmouth, and it brings people downtown for that weekend of activities. So,
May I
can
add, by
attest
the way,
to-
that all our events are free, with one exception, and that
Right.
is the Saturday night concert of Jazz Fest, when we bring a Grammy nominee or a couple Grammy winners to the Highfield Theater to perform, and we have to sell tickets to that because we cannot afford that kind of talent. But everything else we do is free. And I'm including the town dance on Friday night.
Yes.
And I would just say that I think, beyond the value of really promoting the arts is, I think, the other piece that you're speaking to, which is not only does it bring potential dollars to the town outside of your event, but it also really, I think, makes Falmouth a place that's dynamic and appealing, and when people are planning their trips, if they've, happened to be here on this weekend, they may plan to come back and make that part of their vacation, or as they're looking at what activities are going on, deciding where they're going to take their family, even if it's just for a weekend drive from the other end of the Cape. These are the type of things that make Falmouth a dynamic and vibrant community. So I think there's a real value there that's not just measured in the dollars. Beyond that.
We do try to attract what is sometimes called the cultural tourist. Falmouth's got perfectly nice beaches, but that's a July and August event. So we'd like to get people thinking about Falmouth as a place where there's something to do besides going to the beach. And maybe they can do it in the spring, and maybe they can do it in the fall. And we can stretch our season and our economic activity a bit outside of that desperately vigorous chunk in the middle of the summer.
I have two questions. One is for the arts festival that just happened, most of the artists there are either actual Falmouth artists or local Cape artists. Is that correct?
Everything that is, yes, that direct answer is yes. Everything is either, is made on Cape Cod and is made by hand.
And for the Jazz Fest, it isn't just the Peg Noonan Park and Library Lawn. Aren't there other events going in the restaurants and some of the businesses? I think even Headlines opens up and has music in many different places on the main street. Is that correct?
Well, it has sort of morphed into a week-long event, but from our parochial point of view, we have the Friday Night Jazz Stroll, which starts down by Queens Byway and runs all the way up Main Street with music in the shops and restaurants. And a tent we have out in Peg Noonan Park, hence my request for the permit, where we have music playing during the evening. But prior to that, there is activity at Highfield Hall. They're going to have a piano player, a pianist, a wonderful guy, Rosano Sportiello, on Friday night. Robert Wyatt's going to speak on Saturday. And that wonderful group that played yesterday may well come back on Sunday for a sort of they were wonderful. We have a sort of a whole Highfield music weekend. There will probably be a concert in Woods Hole on Tuesday or Wednesday. And then we do Friday and Saturday, and hopefully a jazz brunch on Sunday. We want people to come down and spend the weekend.
Any other questions? There are two different events, so we should take each one separately for our consideration. For the Arts Alive?
I would move to approve the special event permit and all that's on for that one. I know this has already happened, so.
Well, we're really talking about the fee waiver.
I don't think we can waive the filing fee, but
Right.
you're suggesting waiving the permit fee of
Yes.
$100 a day?
Yes.
Okay.
I would second that.
Motion and second to waive the permit fee for the Arts Alive. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And the Jazz Fest?
I'd move the same for the Jazz Fest, that we approve the waiver of the filing fee. Is that correct?
No, we don't waive the filing fee. but
I'm
we
sorry, waive the
Permit fee.
permit
Permit
fee,
fee.
yes, thank you.
Second?
No, you take it.
And I do think we still expect the deposit of $300, which gets returned anyway, but
I think you already have my deposit.
I believe we do. So the motion is to waive the permit fee of $100 a day for the Jazz Fest also. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, none?
Thank you very much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Roger.
All right. I think we're now on to the Jack's Pack. Do we have anyone from the Jack's Pack organization here? You had a question for that, Mr. Patterson, correct?
Yes, I would just like to know how they handle the scholarships that they distribute to the high school students. What's the method by which they advertise the availability of those, and then how do they determine how they distribute the money that they accumulate? I'm trying to ascertain whether this is a part of the school program, and we can look at it from
I
that
know that they,
perspective.
if I might, Mr.
Yep,
Chair,
sure.
I can tell you that the Sandy Cooney's organization, they helped build.
Yes, we can.
Yes, they do, they work with Jack's Pack, so I would assume that it would have all of that formality as with everything that they do from that organization. So I think that would be one reason to, Together We Can, here we go, under the umbrella of Falmouth Together We Can's 501c3 status. So, and they do focus on Falmouth and young folks, so I think that is a great measure of confidence in terms of your question.
I hear that, but I know that, yes, we can. It really provides almost an opportunity for people to get under a not-for-profit category for donations to their. What I'm concerned about is the auditing, if you will, of the money that they take in and how it's distributed. And I don't know what checks we have.
Falmouth does that. I mean, Together We Can, that's exactly what they do.
Performs that function.
They have an
Okay.
accounting, they have the bank account, they audit
They
every
file
time there's
taxes.
file taxes and audit every time there's a distribution, and also annually.
So Mr. Patterson's question is, what is the determining, figuring out why they get scholarships?
Right.
It would just be Falmouth residents, because that's what Falmouth Together We Can, that's what their authorization is. More specific than that, I don't know.
Because this seems like, only a part of Falmouth We Can, and I don't know how this is managed. That's the question I have in my mind.
In
And I
fact,
wish we had somebody here just to be able to address it, because it's a great cause.
can I just add one more thing, because I'm reading more specifics as we go on. Last week at Falmouth High School Awards Night, 10 seniors were awarded a total of $7,000 raised at the July 4, 2015 run. So I would assume it'd be run exactly the same way.
Right.
And run through the school scholarship committee, because I know that's a well-established organization.
I believe, and I'm only speaking to other scholarships that I've been involved with, is that the school committee or the school itself is very hands-on about how those, when you submit you have to submit the scholarship through the school. They then reach out to students to encourage them to apply, and generally, none of them are closed. Some students may be more appropriate, but I think that application process is, and then it's sent back to the committee to make their selections. That's been my experience with a number of other scholarships that I've worked on through the school.
Mine as well.
I certainly approve of what's going on. If you look at their accounting, they did have the same charge of $100 in the time value, and still had a net profit of almost $9,000 and gave away $7,000. So we're not hurting their accounting by sticking with the policy we had in the past. They do collect over $6,000 in registrations. And so I'm still comfortable with saying, road races that collect registration fees, it is a fee that's being collected, so I have no problem with the town collecting the permit fee for, as our policy states.
So I guess I would maybe take a different perspective, and I see the numbers, and certainly they have a budget that's maybe a little bit bigger than some smaller organizations in town, but I think that this particular event is really singular. There aren't a lot of other events in town that celebrate and really recognize the life of a young person that was, cut down very early from drunk driving, and then tries to encourage, really in the face of all the things that we're seeing in this town with substance abuse, really tries to encourage a very positive, healthy, drug and alcohol-free development for young people. So, looking at the fact that the date is soon, I think these questions are important, and maybe we can follow up on them, but looking at the date of being July 4th, we're not really meeting again before then.
Right.
That's my only concern. I wouldn't want to, I know no one's here, and that's unfortunate, but I think my position would be, at least for this particular year, to really give them the benefit of the doubt, because it looks like they're doing something important, and waive that fee for those reasons.
I'm not too concerned about the decision-making on the scholarships, because I think that is done through, any scholarship done through the schools, it has to be vetted by I think that they do follow that policy.
And if I might, Mr. Chair, I want to support Selectman Braga's comment in the sense of, with the substance abuse issues and all of the different means that a lot of organizations and folks in town are struggling to find what works, this, I think, is a unique opportunity to target the most at-risk age of kids, and to really get them together and thinking about having fun and, achieving in a certainly a alcohol-free environment, and that's a message that's hard to get to teenagers, and this is one reason to do it, and they do all get together around that one issue.
Entertain a motion?
I'll make a motion that the permit fee be waived.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. The ayes have it. I believe that leaves us with the town manager's report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As a reminder, selectmen will meet in joint session with members of the planning board at 6:30 p.m. Tomorrow evening for the purpose of selecting an applicant to fill the current planning board vacancy. I was pleased to attend the third annual One Cape Conference, was referred to earlier this past week. I was also pleased to attend the rededication of the tennis courts at Swift Park on Saturday. And on the morning of Thursday, June 23rd, the police department hosted a memorial tree planting ceremony. I was pleased to join them in honor of Sheriff's Deputy John Cutfila Jr., native son of Falmouth, who was tragically killed, as the board's aware, in protecting the lives of others in Hillsborough County, Florida, earlier this year. And on Friday, I and other staff members met with Fireworks Committee Chair Dutch Drolet in reviewing all the preparations for Falmouth's upcoming July 4th fireworks event. All preparations are in place for this much anticipated annual event. Our continued thanks and appreciation to Dutch and members of his committee for their steadfast dedication and leadership in facilitating this special community event. As an aside, the board will recall Dutch has indicated that this is anticipated to be the last year that the committee will be organizing and staging the fundraising and organizing the event after many, many years of extraordinary service. So that's something that we will need to discuss at an appropriate time. And that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other business? Yes, sir.
Yeah, the Falmouth Quarterback Club was on the docket, I don't know.
Yeah.
Things jumped on and off, and we approved that unfortunately an hour and a half ago.
Did you?
We did.
So sorry.
No, we're sorry that.
I'm just sorry that you didn't know that we
Yeah,
approved
sorry.
the signs, and you're all set.
All right, thank you.
You're good.
Uh-oh.
Was that on here?
Yeah, it's on our agenda.
Yeah, it is, no, let's clean that up if we can.
We're not dismissed, so we can
We
still.
didn't adjourn yet, so thank you. We jumped all over the place, so.
Oh, I see. Yes. We did.
So that's not on that list.
It wasn't on the main list, I think. Is that what it was?
Yeah, it wasn't on this
Right,
list here.
correct.
But it's on our agenda, so we
Yes.
certainly can deal with that.
It's on the list, it's on the website.
Yep. I believe we have two applicants, Michael Colgan and Stephen O'Connell. And Stephen? Okay. So, Michael Colgan, if you could come forward and tell us why you'd like to be on the Substance Abuse Commission? And then Stephen O'Connell.
I'm fairly new to town. I've been a resident in New England since 1991, and when you look at the problem of substance abuse in New England, and specifically Massachusetts, and specifically Falmouth, it's absolutely staggering. And the cost in terms of human tragedy and the financial cost is truly breathtaking. I believe that the town is struggling with how to deal with the problem, and they've got a lot of different initiatives going on, but I think they need to be facilitated and handled in a manner that deals with all aspects of the problem. I speak from personal experience. A member of my family is in recovery, and in August he'll have 2 years of sobriety, so that's a very good thing. But the process of getting to the recovery area is very, very difficult, and the process of going through recovery is difficult as well. So I think it's a big issue. It's kind of coincidental in that it kind of got left off the stage, and that seems kind of tragic to me. But be that as it may, I would like to be an applicant for the member and be approved as an applicant on the committee so that we can do something about the problem in town and the greater Cape Cod area in general.
Any questions?
Quick question. Do you have any recent experience professionally or volunteer-wise in this?
No, not beyond the fact that my family has been involved in drug abuse. I've spent my career in terms of problem-solving, held executive positions both nationally and up and down the East Coast as executive vice presidents of major corporations, and done a lot of problem-solving and team building to develop specific issues and bring together members of disparate teams in order to come to a conclusion in a very specific area. So,
Working toward consensus. Thank you.
Sorry, can I just mention that we do have a wonderful network, and which is considered.
Oh, so you have to come up to the microphone.
Oh, I do apologize.
That's all right.
Hi, my name is Sheila Travers. I just want to mention that we do have a wonderful network here on the Cape. I've always worked working with people who...
Actually, Sheila, I mean, this is part of the interview process we're doing.
Oh, no,
So-
no, no. I just want to mention that Habit Management, which is an OPC, is a great company when it comes to abuse. People who abuse with opiates and stuff like that. I had family members, unfortunately, who passed away and who committed suicide. And we are so fortunate here on the Cape, what we have.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Sorry, I wish I could say more, but we're so blessed in a lot of degrees here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions for Mr. Colgan? Okay, Stephen O'Connell, come forward, please.
Good evening, members of the board. My name is Steve O'Connell. I'm fairly new to Falmouth. I've only been here 23 years. I don't think that qualifies me as new, I understand. I applied for a position in this board. I've worked in this field for a while. To be honest, I'm in the middle of a career change, and I've worked part-time in the recovery field for Gosnold for about 6-7 years, and recently just took the position of Director of Professional Relations for Recovering Champions, the other new program here. And I'm going to be involved in early education with alcohol and drug issues. And I'm being paid to do that, and it's near and dear to my heart. I've been doing it, like I said, part-time for a while. And so I thought it would be a good idea to bring some of that experience to the board in Falmouth. I've never been to a board meeting, to be honest. I don't even really know their mission. I've checked out the website and things, but my vision is to have early education. I like to tell people, I've never smoked a cigarette, because in 2nd grade they showed me a smoker's lung and a non-smoker's lung, and I went, you know what? I don't want that. And it worked. And to me, early education is really big, because there's a lot of people who get involved because they don't know. They just don't know. And that's why I'm here.
Any questions for Mr. O'Connell? Thank you. I believe, as I read our docket, we have a position term ending June 30th, 2019, and a term ending June 30th, 2018. So we'll have to make a distinction between these two gentlemen if we want to appoint them both.
Okay, well, since Mr. O'Connell's been here longer in the town, I think we're going to ask him to do the longer term. All right, so I'd like to nominate Stephen O'Connell to the Substance Abuse Commission for a term ending June 30th of 2019.
Second.
Motion is a second to appoint Stephen O'Connell, term ending June 30th, 2019. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none. And
then I'd like to nominate or appoint Michael Colgan to the position of the Substance Abuse Commission for the term ending June 30th of 2018.
Second.
motion is second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none. The ayes have it.
So thank you very much.
And sorry for the
survey.
If I may, just for one moment, I just want to thank and appreciate the fact that we have individuals coming from really different backgrounds. I think that this is a problem that requires, really interdisciplinary and a holistic approach, and folks bringing their talents from a variety of different experiences.
And hands-on?
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, this week we have lost in Falmouth, in the last 2 weeks, at least five young people. So this isn't something that's academic, it's very real, so we thank you. Looking forward to it, having you on board.
There was just a recent article, I think it was the Cape Cod Times, on the whole substance abuse and the whole support network that's available. That's actually a pretty, if you didn't see it, it was just this week. But it really does break down the support services across all of eastern part of Massachusetts, including Cape Cod. So if you need a reference, actually I was pretty impressed. I folded it up because I have been involved in the police department's coalition here in town. And it's a nice primer, I would say, for people trying to get the big picture of what's available for supporting services. So if you haven't read it, I'd recommend it to you.
Thank you very much. Now I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None.
Thanks for